Alright, it is 7:01. I'm calling this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Fruit Heights City Council. February 3rd, 2026.
Can't hear you.
Is this not on?
It's almost.
Okay, February 3rd, 2026 at 910 South Mountain Road. Is that better?
No.
Does it have any controls for volume? No? Welcome to everyone in attendance. We do have a full agenda tonight. Is that better?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. We'll get started. We'll have a pledge of allegiance first, David will lead us, then I will offer a prayer.
Please stand. After me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father, which art in heaven, we are gathered here for a public meeting this evening as neighbors and friends and elected officials, and we pray for thy guidance and thy spirit this evening as we engage in discussions regarding our community. And pray thee to help us to remember that each one in this room has a love for this community in their hearts and would like to see good and done here, and pray that we may be guided in our discussion to be respectful and to be helpful to one another, and to do those things which we may find wisest for our city and for our future, and that we may in the end always remain the friends and neighbors that we are. And we pray these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, roll call. Councilmember Gary Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Mark.
Here.
Councilmember David Howe.
Here.
Councilmember Riley. Here. Councilmember David Lowe.
Here.
Mayor Jean Brewer. Here. Thank you, Haley. Number 2, declaration of conflicts of interest. Having seen the agenda, is there any of the council members who must declare a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports. Item 3.1, council reports. Let's start over here. Blake, would you like to lead us off?
Yeah, of course. So one of the committees that I serve on is the Legislative Policy Committee for the Huntington City Towns. We're on day 15 of the legislative session, and we have a record number of 779 different member bills that the legislature have already been, the language is there online, and so we are monitoring those for any bills that would be impacting how local municipalities function. There's a lot, and nothing to report on as of yet. None of the really significant bills that we are watching have made it through both the House and Senate yet. So, but other than that, we've got our youth council is going to be going to the fire department. Well, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know. That's all.
Great, thank you, Eileen.
A couple of things. Our cemetery committee has had a couple of offers of people who would like to serve. And then we also have found someone who is willing to help be an advisor to our committee, who actually was a CFO for a company that builds private cemeteries. And so he's very, very knowledgeable about the costs that come with that. So we're very excited to have Stephen Sills offered to be helpful to us, so I'm very happy for that. Thinking back to, I've been charged with perhaps raising money for pickleball courts. This was in our stuff previously. This is, and maybe we can just look at it. This is a park master plan that was drawn in 2021 by Curtis Tanner, who was our planning commission chair at the time. And if you'll notice, this is a master plan for Harvey Park here by City Hall. And he's showing a multi-use, maybe pickleball court, and then a little parking over there. I've spoken with our city manager, Darren, and he is saying that we maybe have some plans to do a little water project there, but it's actually a fairly nice flat area. And then if you'll notice, one of the things too that people have been talking about is perhaps a walking trail around a park. I'll just pass that back if you would. Sorry, I didn't use it so long. And so it shows actually on there a half-mile walking path, a 6-foot sidewalk to go around the outskirts of the park. And so I think maybe as we're talking about how to do pickleball courts, and we have very limited funds, we're talking about trying to fundraise and different things. There is a choice. We had Jones and Associates draw up a plan for pickleball court at Newman's Park, but we could look at both spots and maybe decide which would be the better use of funds to get us started.
So this is one single pickleball court?
Yeah, but I think in talking to Darren, I think there would be room for more than that in that area if that's what we wanted to pursue. It's clear off in the corner over there, and then it's showing some parking, which could be pickleball court as well. There are some different options. One of the things that's different is at that time we were still talking about doing some sort of a little memorial up on the north side of the park, and I think Mark led a successful project to do here at City Hall for Veterans Memorial, and so I don't know that we want to pursue that, so that might be another place. Although one of the things about pickleball courts is that they are noisy and people don't necessarily want them directly adjacent to their backyards. And so those are things to think about, and something I would love to hear feedback from council and directions, and so just different thoughts.
Okay,
That's all.
I don't see backyards involved either.
Well, if we put it up in the Memorial Park area here right on the north end, then you are right adjacent to people's backyards. Okay, so that would be it's just another thing to think about, something else that we have drawn up. We actually the city paid for this to be drawn up back in March of 2021.
Okay.
So just a thought on that. So just trying to move forward on that.
We would
So
love to move forward on that. I think that would be a great discussion to
I
have.
did have one other question as we're talking. One of the things that we thought about for quite a long time now, Darren, is that cameras. We had thought that when we got the fiber, that we would have the ability to do cameras underneath the underpass under Highway 89. And I just wondered if where would that stand on I know there's some limiting factors there. I don't know
I'll just say we've been a little bit back and forth on that, which direction to go with the cameras.
Right.
And what brand. Now that we're finally getting everything working and we get the fiber, we've got the dark fiber going from the city building, we have a little more options that we can look at.
Okay. So you'll keep us up to date with where we're going with that. And also, I just want to say thank you for the speed signs, reminders of that. We put that in our budget last July, And I know that the staff did a lot of research to figure out what was the best option there, so we really appreciate that. Thank you for getting that done, Wayne.
Absolutely. Gary?
This week, I met with Councilmember Hales and Darren to go over the budget for our
It's
water.
hard to hear you.
Sorry, can't hear
It's
me?
hard to hear you.
Which one is yours?
Can you guys turn that up? Which mic is it?
Might want to move it up more on your shirt too.
So just so you know, this mic has actually been calibrated to my voice, and the expert said to put it right here, so I'm doing my best. I'll yell, I'm not mad.
The experts are wrong.
So, all right, I'll just talk loud.
Thank you.
No, I don't. I think I've got it now. All right, David Hales and I met with Darren yesterday, and we started going over the water fund and the vehicle fund. And that will be coming up here in a upcoming council meeting, possibly next council meeting. I don't think there's a guarantee for that, but what we're doing for interested residents is we are breaking up the budget into chunks so that they're more easily understood and you don't have to try and eat an elephant in one bite. And so if you're interested in the budgets, please come next council meeting on the 17th and or at least check the agenda and make sure it's on there, because I guess there's no guarantee that it will be on there, but that's a potential time for it to be on there. So that's really all I have to report.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for sitting down to take the time on the budget development. It's an important process, one of our primary obligations as council. David?
All right, I got a few things this past few weeks. I'm on the Emergency Preparedness Committee for the city. We met and talked about our plans for the upcoming year. There is the 2026 statewide Utah Great Shakeout. A lot of you residents are probably familiar with that earthquake drill we have nearly every year. That's on April 16th. So we'll get more information in the Ridge Runner, and the city newsletter, and your local representative contact me about that.
Great.
September is Emergency Preparedness Month, and Fruit Heights we're planning a preparedness fair, either on our own as a city or collaborating with Davis County. There is a county fair scheduled for September 26th, and it's going to involve a lot of the cities in our county, and it should be a really interesting and fruitful event for training and vendors and all kinds of things. Fruit Heights City has, on the next topic on civics, our city has been collaborating with Kaysville City for a number of years on special events, such as like the 4th of July parade and breakfast and things like that. With the 250th year anniversary events for our country, we're considering collaborating on additional activities with them. We have our own committee also that are kind of going through some ideas as well, so but that's forthcoming. I've been chatting with a number of residents about the general plan, and I want to give you a little feedback. I've done some of my own research on that plan. I've talked with our city attorney, and I've prepared a written statement that I'll be discussing some of the learnings I've had on that later on in the agenda when we are going to be discussing that. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Perfect. Mark?
Okay. With the public hearing tonight of the water rates, I decided I wanted to learn a little bit more about his team and watched the Public Works guys replace or upgrade 5 water meters. I tried to talk them into let me lay down on the ground and do it, but they said, no, we don't want an old man to do it, plus we want it done right. So I just watched, but it was impressive how they were going around and fixing those to get them so they could be read. So then I decided to spend 2.5 hours and drove around mostly the east side of the city reading the meters. And it's really a cool process. As they drive down the street, it's reading the different water meters. If by chance one water meter did not get picked up, then he would get out of the truck and manually read it. And it would take, if everything goes well, about 6 hours to read the entire city. And I was also surprised, we won't have the issue this year, but if we had a foot of snow, it still reads through the snow. So it was pretty interesting and learned a lot. Also, they come back and they run a report, and the next day, if somebody's house really had low usage or very high usage, then they go out the next day and manually read that to make sure it's accurate. But my eyes were open with the process of the watering and how they take responsibility of reading that and take it serious. And that's it.
That's really great to know. Thank you. And thanks to diligent work on part of our public works. Thank you, and your guys. Okay, thank you, council. Item 3.2, mayor report. Reporting on meetings that I have been involved with in the past, since we met last, in the past 2 weeks. I will report on, I've 3 times in these 2 weeks been up on the Hill as a local official. One time with our youth council, and that was Local Officials Day, which includes youth councils, and includes an address from Governor Cox to all of us, and twice for the meeting that Blake mentioned, LPC, which is called Legislative Policy Committee. That is those of us who are voting members from each city meeting together in the offices of ULCT, Utah League of Cities and Towns, which is how we lobby against bills that affect, maybe I shouldn't use the word against, how we lobby involving bills to influence them for the good of cities and towns. There are many bills every year that affect city governance and the way cities can or cannot run their cities. And so ULCT is involved in that, and Blake and myself and Darren are our city's voting representatives there. Speaker Schultz came and talked with us in one of those meetings. So the main message that I have been impressed with, both from Governor Cox very strongly, and again, less than a week later from Speaker Schultz, is that, and it's one of the biggest topics on the minds of every city leader in those meetings, along with a couple other hot topics this session, but as per usual in the last many sessions, is the moderate income housing push from the state. It is very strong. I cannot overemphasize this. Governor Cox's address to all of us, and with our youth sitting there, was very pointed. He said, look at these youth at your table and tell them why you refuse to build housing that they might afford in the next 10 years as young adults. And he said preemption is on the table, and everyone should know that. When I say preemption, for anyone who wouldn't be clear on that, that means the state simply coming in to supersede the city's zoning authority. The power to zone whatever development might be before us has always belonged to the city. Speaker Schultz reiterated the same message to us just 5 days later in a gathering of city officials and said, preemption is on the table if cities do not show their effort to step up and provide this housing. Now, whether or not I agree with their approach, or you agree with their approach, or whether or not there's a discussion to be had about the underlying economics of it, is right now besides the point. Because the reality is they are making that threat overtly and strongly and repeatedly, and we, as a small city, and any city, cannot really afford to call a bluff. I do not want to see our zoning authority taken away by the state, such that whatever the next development might be to occur, and we're slow on, we have 2 going on, but we're not expanding rapidly, but eventually something will be the next development to take place. Do we want the city to have control of that zoning, or the state to come in and say, hey, Fruit Heights, you aren't doing your part, We can see that because you're backing away from your moderate income housing plan. And that is not a thing I want to see happen for our city. I do not want to see that happen. And I don't think that we're in any position to play chicken with state authority on this or any other matter. And it's not a thing that I want to play into the state's arguments and become an example that they can wave up and say, this is one example of cities are not doing their part on this issue. They're looking for cities to make examples of and bolster that argument that the state is stepping. And I am just a messenger. Again, it's not whether or not I agree with their position and I'm not saying that I agree with what they're doing. I'm saying that is a reality that we are dealing with. That is the current legislative reality. And we are 2 weeks into a session and laws are actively being formed and debated and crafted. And we're trying to lobby the best that we can as cities. And I'm sorry, it's not public comment yet, but you'll be welcome to have your time. That is the reality that we're under. And I just want to get that message across to everyone because we're not all in those meetings, but I am, and I'm representing us, and I am returning and bearing that message to you. It is no laughing matter, and it is no joke that they would love to come in and take our zoning authority away from us. And that is the actual threat that is happening. It's possible that several people here tonight have come under the thinking that our general plan is a threat. But let me tell you, that is not a threat. The threat is from Capitol Hill. The threat is of preemption. And the threat is being said repeatedly and openly and purposefully. And it just is. I wish it weren't that way. I don't want to see that happen to us. I want us to be protected from that. I don't want to become ammunition for that argument either. And that is where my thinking is because of my interface with state lawmakers. And that is how it is right now. And we're in a session right now. And so that's my report. And it is a real thing that is relevant to one of the topics that I think many people here tonight might be interested and have come because they're interested in. It is a factor that cannot be ignored, must not be ignored, and that, to my mind, is the most present and real factor versus factors that might be versus other factors that may or may not ever materialize or happen or that might be far off in planning. This is a right now, this year, this session reality that as city officials we must consider and look at and deal with. And I want, as mayor, to protect us the best I can. And I'm participating with our lobbying, with our ULCT every week, along with others tasked to do so. In our city, Councilmember Hale was with us when we were listening to the governor. So they can vouch for what was said. And I'm not exaggerating it. I'm not exaggerating it. It's very, very pointed. So that is my report. Staff reports, number 3.3. Darren, you want to go first?
Just we're continuing working on the budget. We'll be putting more plans together for the budget improvements in the council.
Perfect.
We
We will start having those budget meetings soon, right? We plan for the beginning of March.
beginning of March is when we'll really start presenting a lot to everybody, to the residents, as we get to that point. So there's still some research, there's still some unknowns through some of the other entities and those kind of things that we have to still start getting put in place as we're beginning.
Okay, thank you for your work on that. It is a massive job for our city manager this year. Lane.
Yeah, we had some concerns about speeds on Laurelwood, so Public Works put up some speed signs and also a speed tracking device, and that was up for 2 weeks. And
Can they hear you when you talk back there? Continue to do it, Mike. Thank you.
we had some concerns on speed on Laurelwood. Is that better?
Yeah, it is.
So we put up some speed signs, speed tracking device, and the average speed was 27 miles an hour on Laurelwood. So that's good news. So
Okay, perfect. Those are pretty moderate average speeds. I'm sure there are outliers as well there. Not everyone goes that, but it's nice to have that data, and it's great to collect it. Making those decisions based on data, I think is the best way to go, and it's great to know what those are. Appreciate your work there. Any other staff reports tonight? Probably not. Jeff, anything? Brad, anything? Okay, great. Okay, we will enter our public comment period, number 4 on our agenda. During this period, any member of the public may address the city council on any topic that are or are not on the agenda. I'm asking you to limit your comments to 3 minutes, please. And to begin by stating your name and address of residence, and know that no action may be taken on items that are not on our agenda tonight. And with this many people, for the sake of all of our time tonight, if someone else has already made the point that you had intended to make, let's refrain from repeating ad nauseum. If someone's made that point, then let's continue, just because, so everyone, we're here till midnight. If you have something more to add, then you're welcome to add it, of course. I'm going to use the timer on the screen so that we can all see.
Man,
Is it working?
we would also be valuable to point out that we are having a public hearing on the culinary water, so if there are comments on that, we'll be seeing.
Sure, yeah. So as you can see on the agenda, public hearing for the culinary water rates is coming up. There'll be another opportunity for public comment if that is the area that you'd like to comment on. There will be public comment because that will be a public hearing section of the agenda. Okay, Haley, help me out there. I'm just not seeing them. There it is. Oh boy. Oh, that's not working. Okay. So we did have two, it's not. We did have 2 residents who actually sent in or filled out.
Maybe we just use a cell phone and just put a timer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, they're looking for it. I'm back on the Come on, Kat. Blake, I think things over there. That work better for you over
There we go. Yeah, a lot better.
there. The signal's stronger over there. Okay, so green is go and yellow is recess. So we have 2 residents that had actually filled out a request to speak form. So I told them one of them came in very late today. I didn't have a chance to talk with that individual, so we'll see if he's here. But one filled out one yesterday, and I said he could go first. James Snow, is James Snow present? Okay.
Is it up here?
Yes, right up there, thank you.
My name is Jim Snow. I reside at 290 South Mountain Road in Fruit Heights. My wife and 7 children moved here from Texas in 1992. We felt extremely blessed to find a piece of property that would fit our family and provide a place for our posterity. Working 16 hours a day, 6 days a week for 13 months, we were finally able to establish our dream home. Then came the plan. A document that, if it's adopted, would utterly destroy our plans for our home and our family. It would turn our private, secluded backyard into a public thoroughfare. It would destroy the ability to allow one of our children to someday build a second home on our property. It designates our private property as a historic resource and a central activity center, and essentially makes it a parking lot for what's the equivalent of a strip mall. I don't know how you can designate all those themes in the same place. In April of 2023, the proposed general plan was brought before the City Council. A roll call vote was taken. 1 for, 1 against, 2 for the plan. By state statute 10-3-5-507, since the vote did not have the 3 required affirmative votes to pass, the motion was defeated and invalid by law. Tonight, the title and scope of the resolution provided to me for item 8.1 on the agenda does not match the description that was published in the agenda. The agenda states, ratified vote for general plan. The resolution states ratify the general plan previously approved in April of 2023. There was no plan approved in 2023. By state law, the motion to approve was defeated and invalid. The proposed general plan is flawed. It contains moderate income housing in a location which anyone can see will never happen. It proposes a trail along privately owned property on the north side of a creek which has topography which could not accommodate such a trail, indicating that this was just someone's wild imagination without ever doing the research to see if it was plausible. It provides unrealistic and questionable revenue projections from proposed commercial zones. So many parts of this proposed general plan have been shown to be lacking. How can we be assured that any other part of it is valid? During phone calls yesterday from the city manager and the mayor, I was asked to propose what I would do about this situation. One, we may want to table this resolution until the questionable items can be resolved. Two, we could amend the proposed resolution to provide for an annual citizen review with proper notice and hearings to allow the general plan to become a living document as it has been represented to be. Or three, we could start over. If the agenda on item 8.1 is brought to vote this evening, I would request that each council member clarify if they have actually read the entire document.
Thank you. Our second gentleman who sent in a request is Jeremiah Hansen. Right here. Thank you. Go ahead.
Jeremy Hansen, I live on Cherry Plum Lane here in Fruit Heights. You asked us not to repeat things that other people had said. When I signed up a few minutes ago, I didn't know he was going to say everything that I wanted to say, so amen to all of that. Just as a bit more context, so when this plan first came out, I had a call with the former mayor and asked him, why are we proposing a really bad plan with really bad options? And the response was, well, we're really afraid of what other people might do in the future, so we have to have this plan. And when I pointed out all the issues of the plan, it was, well, but we have to have something. And I said, well, why don't you have something good instead of something bad? And there was no response, no substantive response. I had the same conversation with the city manager, same exact conversation. It was, well, we're really afraid of what other people might do in the future, so we want this really bad plan in place. I think it was in this very room, we met with people who had been paid a lot of money to come up with this really bad plan. And I pointed out, I said, are you gonna have a trail go through my neighbor's yard? And they were like, well, what do you mean? And I pointed out, well, this goes through the Savage's yard. And they're like, well, we didn't know that that was private property. And I was like, yeah, that seems to be the level of detail, care, and intelligence that was used when we paid you a lot of money to make this really bad plan. So I think that's indicative of, they didn't even know that this was private property that they were trying to seize to go through the backyard of somebody. Really, really dumb. I don't know this firsthand, but I've also been informed by people who know those who run the golf course that they were furious when this happened because it was like they were going to take the golf course. Nobody even consulted the county or the golf course of any input there. Seems really lacking in detail and foresight. So look, based on everything that I know, the people who were paid to do this, and I'm not like, I don't know who was involved, the people who were paid to do this did a really bad job. I haven't talked to a single person who thinks that it is a good idea to have a plan. I fully understand, like you mentioned, the city attorney, there should be a plan. There has to be a plan. But it shouldn't be a really bad plan that the people who made it didn't even know that there was private property there. The golf course wasn't consulted. I haven't talked to a single person who likes it. So I agree that there are reasons to be concerned, but the same thing that the mayor mentioned earlier about we're really afraid that like the state's going to come in and take this property was the same stuff that was said 4 years ago. They haven't done it. I can guarantee you the state isn't going to walk in tomorrow if you don't pass this really bad plan tonight and take the land and do something else. It might happen 4 or 5 years down the road, but there is time to do a not bad plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are the two that sent the previous request, so mic is open for others to have an opportunity.
I am Frank Lever, live at 980 East Raymond Road, have been there since 1980. Have had the experience of serving on the Planning Commission when we did a general plan. And I can tell you this affordable housing is not a new issue. And it's been addressed many times. And the question I would still ask the city is, how much affordable or moderate income housing do we need? Nobody can tell me that in this plan. The state isn't dictating how much we need. In fact, when we put that original plan back in that 90s timeframe, the development that went down on Main Street and Nichols Road was designed specifically for moderate income housing. We've got a lot of units down there. To now designate the golf course as a potential makes no sense. Same time that was going on, we were getting pushed to do a lot of interesting flag lots. Those of you that are familiar with Laurel would recognize that that was pushed as a moderate lower income by putting flag lots in there. I bet most of you that live on Laurelwood don't realize you live in moderate income housing, because it's not. And it was a good thing for developers making more money. And I fear right now this plan is being pushed more by development than it is by sensible thinking and what ought to be done. I would urge the city council to take a deep breath. Madam Mayor, there is not the kind of pressure that you presented. It is false. It is not realistic to tell these people that the state is going to come in and shove it down our throats. They will not. They will look for us to do the right thing, and we can do the right thing for them and our citizens. And I would ask that you do that and set this aside and start the thing the right way by passing something that is meaningful and good.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, my name is Paul Pugmire. I reside in Eagle Mountain, Utah. I am the president of First Tee Utah, which is a statewide youth development nonprofit that teaches kids character values and life skills through golf. I have done that for 14 years. In addition, for the last 10 years, I have hosted a golf talk radio show on ESPN 700 called Utah Golf Radio. I mention this to say that I have a perspective of a jewel in your community from the statewide view. And that jewel is Davis Park Golf Course. I'm here tonight to encourage you as you consider your general plan to protect and revere Davis Park Golf Course. It has a legacy that is beloved around the state of Utah. And I wonder some if perhaps you're so used to it and so close to it that you don't understand the role it plays in the state of Utah. Davis Park is looked at as an example and as an inspiration in the golf community around the state, in no small part because of the legacy of its golf professionals. Pierre Hualde, Brad Stone, and now currently Zach Johnson. And we are favored tonight to have Mr. Johnson with us. That, together with its unique and beautiful topography and playability, makes it, again, a jewel. I also have had the pleasure and honor of serving 2 terms each on a planning commission and on a city council. I mention this so that I can say I have some understanding of the challenges you face and the work you do. I have deep, deep respect for that work. I also am aware from my experience that there are opportunistic, entrepreneurial people who will look at the general plan and they will be devising their plans outside of public view with no public hearing, looking for a crack, looking for an opportunity to take advantage of things in the general plan that are not in the public's or the community's interest. A golf course serves as a community gathering place where communities are formed and strengthened, and Davis Park has been exactly that for generations. I encourage you to remove from the general plan any discussion of Davis Park that hints that it resides solely on the decision of the county. I encourage you to state emphatically in your general plan that regardless of what the county wishes to do at any given time in the future, that you make a strong statement that City of Fruit Heights supports Davis Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did not continue the timer, I apologize about that, so I need to go back to minutes, so I apologize.
Thank you.
I apologize in advance that I'll go 15 seconds over because I'm a nervous Nelly and I already timed myself at home. My name is Jenny Rowley and I'm a resident of Fruit Heights. I live at 758 Eagle Way and I'm present today as a concerned citizen regarding the lack of transparency regarding the proposed city plan. As you're aware, there's been public concern and outcry regarding the improper vote back in 2023, and we can see on the agenda for this evening there's been a plan to ratify the improper vote. Why haven't the citizens been given adequate notice that this was going to be on the agenda for tonight? In your campaign promises made in the last election, there was a promise of greater transparency. There was a promise of better notification of upcoming issues and agendas, and as we can all see, the signs around town mentioned tonight will discuss culinary rates. Why isn't the ratification of the improper vote on the general plan advertised as well? It seems there's a rush to cover up past mistakes. When I asked about this, there was a quick turn to excuses and turning the blame on the citizens not being informed. The mayor's memo was released on January 29th and touched on the plan, but failed to use that opportunity to notify the community that a ratification vote would be coming up in just a few days. I was also told it would be in the upcoming Ridge Runner, but that seems like a moot point if the notification had not come out prior to the meeting. Conveniently, the publication showed up in the last 24 hours after a large amount of kickback. As a resident whose home is directly along the fence line of the golf course, I was curious to know how my neighbors felt. I knocked on doors today to see how informed and transparent they felt the Fruit Heights leadership has been. Every single one of them were quite unaware of the facts and especially surprised about the ratification plans this evening. According to the city attorney at the council meeting on January 6th, the plan for the moderate income housing can be, quote, as small as the council wants to make it. That was at minute 28:48. If this is the case, why does the proposal encompass the entire Davis County golf course? Why can't the plan choose a portion or somewhere else? I've had more than one neighbor propose that we're used a golf course. Why not propose simply decrease the course to a 9-hole course or simply keep it across Main Street? This is an issue that's going to affect our homes, our property values, and overall neighborly feel of this community. It seems more like an opportunity for a money grab for real estate investors at this point. At the same January council meeting, the attorney suggested creating an opportunity to allow public weigh-in and presenting Reader's Digest version so that the public can have the same understanding as the council. What's the rush? Why can't we wait 2 additional months or so? Allow time for the public to weigh in and understand before moving to ratification. There are repeated instances stating there was plenty opportunity for public input. The general plan, a total of 40 people in the city, over 6,000 residents attended an open house in 2023. There were only 32 comments online. Knowing how much this city means to the residents, I can guarantee many more would participate had communication been adequate. The whole situation seems to have an underlying intention that this is not being shared with the residents. There's a growing distrust in the leadership and concern of an ulterior motive. The communication tactics used are simply not sufficient. In the city of good neighbors, we should not have to go search agendas. The city leadership should be working to create better communication avenues, transparency. Many residents aren't online or savvy or social media users. Our notifications need to be timely, easy to access. What happened to a simple postcard? And why the rush to ratify if there's not a hidden agenda? Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Good evening, I'm Tara Larkin, 1404 East Green Road. Jeannie, tonight you are officially 4 weeks into your term representing us Fruit Heights citizens. Congratulations. Given your goal to ratify the general plan tonight, I thought it prudent to remind ourselves of your commitment to all of us as found on your website, genefruitheight.com/issues. Number one, quote, transparency is a topic that never gets old because it is perennially important that people's business be done in view of the people. As taxpayers, we deserve to know what is being done, and as leaders, we dispel any reason of suspicion. I promise to do all I can to uphold this principle. Number two, quote, we can do better and we must. We can't change the national stage, but we can change our local one. We can engage calmly and respectfully and even be open to accepting the valid points that the other side brings. This is actually how the best solutions are reached. Number three, quote, when people see a clear majority desire being disregarded by elected officials, they lose trust in the process. And tonight you told us not to speak redundantly, which is interesting. Number four, quote, if participation is high and a clear majority is revealed, I would urge the council to take the results seriously when deciding how to vote. Number five, quote, open, transparent, and careful discussion is the right process to follow. Jean, tonight you are asking the City Council to ratify our city's long-term strategy or general plan. By definition, ratification is the final step that turns a proposed plan into an official actionable plan, which obviously implies it currently is not. Once the plan is officially approved, I think it's fair to say that the City Council leaders will abide by the plan, and I'm extremely confused as to why you and others continue to claim it is not to be followed. I've been developing strategy and business plans now for over 30 years. Not once in my career have I presented a plan for final approval to my boss, CEO, or a government official with the expectation that the plan would mean nothing and would not be implemented. Can we please quit making that claim? Just one final comment on the plan, which is the last quote from your website. The general plan is a living document. A future council may wish to make modifications, and public input will again be very welcomed, aiming for the good of the community as a whole, and I support that process. So my request tonight, and I'd like to understand why you're pushing the issue to ratify the plan ahead of getting the broad community's input on what's best for our community and city.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you. Just give me one moment. I'll just respond briefly. Yeah. Thank you for looking at my website. I tried to get people to do that during the campaign.
I wanted to see what we were getting into.
I definitely still very much stand by all of those words. And I don't feel that I'm not being transparent. I feel I'm trying to make communication efforts. I'm trying to invite people to sign up to notify me. If you have signed up for notifying, you would have received the agenda last week, and you would know and could see what was on there. That is the normal process. I'm trying to help people see and hook in and get plugged in to the sources where you can see. We can't send postcards every time. That is hugely expensive. You know, you've got to plug yourself in, and it's just a text or an email. It's the easiest thing everyone has. You don't have to be online, like on Facebook even. So I hope people will plug into those things and receive those notices and have a quick 5 seconds, look at the agenda and see what's going on. This was not a public hearing about the general plan issue. It did not need to meet those types of legal requirements. And I want everyone to be clear that ratifying does not preclude your right to offer any feedback. It doesn't make the plan set in stone or concrete. It just doesn't. And if anyone else has those concerns, those same concerns, I'm hearing that a lot, I want you to know that is not the case. Ratifying does not shut off anyone's ability to offer feedback. I am here taking notes and see others taking notes on every comment that's being made. We will be compiling those notes. We'll be meeting with Planning Commission. This is not some sort of a now where it's too late kind of situation. It just is not that way.
May I just ask one question
sure.
since you responded to my, and this is a sincere question. Okay, clearly the community wants changes to the plan. Nobody opposes the MIH plan. It's just not done right. Why why are you pushing us to ratify a plan that is a bad one? Why not do it the other way around? I don't understand.
Okay, so I have made, I don't want to repeat everything I said earlier in my comment about Capitol Hill and the things happening.
Don't use scare tactics. We know what's going on at Capitol Hill.
Sorry, that's not a scare, I mean, from.
Well, it
I've
is.
talked to county people, that's not true.
Okay, we're not gonna enter into discussion right now, we're gonna continue public comment, okay? I just want everyone to know, ratification is simply correcting a past mistake. Mistakes happen in cities, they happen, everybody makes mistakes, that's simply a correction of a past question. And it does not mean it's too late for anything else, it does not mean that. It does not mean that. I don't know how else to say that plainly. It does not mean it's too late to make a change, but that isn't the case. There will be, it's always open to amendments. There will be a process. There's always an openness to that. And myself and council are all taking notes as people talk. So please don't feel that it's some sort of make or break tonight. That just isn't the case. It's not the case. So we'll continue on. Your 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Sorry, I want to take 3 minutes. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, ladies and gentlemen. Good to be with you tonight. My name is John Atkin, West Point resident. You might be asking why I'm here. Well, I'm running for county sheriff, so my purpose is to attend all 15 city council meetings to understand the problems, understand the issues, understand the concerns, and the values and who you are, and hopefully have some face time and answer those questions on an off base outside of this realm afterwards. I love Davis County. I love what we have here. I've lived outside the country, lived outside Utah, lived outside and deployed overseas. I'm in the military right now, and for 14 years, my full-time assignment is internal affairs of the sheriff's office. I can see many ways and many things that we can do better at the sheriff's office. We can be much more efficient. We can listen more. We can have better communication. We can be more transparent. But I'm here to listen and hopefully answer those questions, to get to know you better so I can adequately represent each and every one of you. I love the passion tonight. I feel like that's a very good thing for us to be able to have these discussions and concerns for our community. But again, I'd love to speak with you whenever you like. I have cards. John Atkin, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Council, Community, my name is Dallin Hutchinson, 925 Valley View Drive in Fruit Heights. Apologies if I stutter my way through this. I am not a public speaker by any stretch of the imagination. But by way of introduction, I have a Bachelor of Science in Urban Rural Environmental Planning from Brigham Young University, a Master of Environmental Planning from University of Tasmania in Australia, a Master's in Real Estate Development, and a Graduate Certificate in Urban Planning from the University of Utah. I think I can probably tell you confidently that I probably know more about a general plan than most people in this room. In fact, I've written them. I was 20 years ago responsible for writing the general plan for Mount Pleasant in central Utah. And it's just that, it's general. And to say it's a plan is more of an idea. We should really be calling it a general idea. It does not have any legislative weight. It doesn't. By law, we have to have a general plan. I don't agree that the plan we have right now is perfect. And there is no stronger advocate for Davis Park Golf Course than myself and Zach and his colleague. I grew up on Davis Golf Course. My whole life was there as an adolescent. And a few years ago when I was living overseas, when I heard that it was on the general plan, was I worried? I mean, yeah, of course, it was my legacy, it's my background, it's my history. But I knew it was a general plan. Folks, it is general. It's an idea. And yes, I think it would be great if we could remove the idea of development off of Davis Golf Course, off the plan. I think it would be good to remove the idea of development of private property off the plan. But here's the thing, folks, it is general. Let's embrace that. If anybody wants to talk to me about what a general plan is and what weight it throws, I'm here. Reach out to me. I'm happy to talk about it, walk you through it, resolve concerns, and kind of put people's minds at rest. It's unfortunate that we've had a few individuals in the city council who have leveraged the idea of a general plan as being gospel. and it's gonna happen. And it was a fear-mongering tactic to, you know, promote their political stance in office. And that was completely out of line. Frankly, I think they should be removed from the council for that behavior because that is unethical and is not bringing in the true spirit of who we're about. So, folks, I'm not saying that we should embrace the general plan as is. I think it's open for tweaking, but let's not get scared about what it is.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My name is Rod Larkin. I live at 1150 East Nichols Road. My property is surrounded by the golf course and the park. And as you can well imagine, that's very valuable to me. Not only that, I've lived in Fruit Heights since we used to race horses up Nichols Road and it was dirt. So I go back quite a ways, and all those people on that wall, I know all of them from San Raymond on. So our city is the city of good neighbors. One thing we watch out for, and we should do on our master plan, is not step on our neighbors' toes. So when I make a master plan, and I used to be on the planning commission, I know I used to say back then, we gotta have multiple housing, we gotta have this, we gotta have it now. That was probably over 20 years ago. Still the same thing we're hearing today. I don't know how much property the city owns, how much property is left to be developed, but my guess is the city's there's gotta be a plan in the state saying, we want this much multiple housing in this size of community. And my guess is we already exceed that. If not, then developers need to buy that property, people who want to sell it, to put the multiple housing in, not slap it on people's property who don't want it. I know every time we come up here, my property's on there for whatever purposes, and all my neighbors' houses are gone. There's this big thing going on. And immediately I start getting phone calls. Is your property for sale? And the golf course, I've talked with them, the same thing happens. It's not for sale, so I just tell them, not in this lifetime. Now, one thing I've always been concerned about too is, for some reason, development thinks if there's raw property, it's gotta be developed. What's wrong with open space? I mean, I have kids come over from the park and pet the horses, and other people walk down the lane and feed them apples. They'll come in and say, can we come in and see your horses? How many horses are in Fruit Heights? There used to be a lot of them. We used to race them up the road, and all over Fruit Heights, everybody had horses. There's no horses anymore. Don't we still want that? Why do we have to take every little plot of ground and plant something on it? And if you plant something on it and you want to do it as a city, then why don't you buy property to do it with the people who want to sell it? Like, I know the Presbyterian Church is empty now. Is that property available? Is there property available in the city? Because I know now when they build houses, they scrape old ones and put new ones on it, there's no property available. So how much property is available, and how many dwellings do you need to have for low income? You say these guys need low income housing. Are you guys in high school? When I was in high school, affordable housing would be a tent, if I could afford it. I couldn't afford it at first, but I got a tent later. In college, I might have upgraded to a really nice tent. And so at some point in time, what is affordable housing? Right now, affordable housing is like $300,000 home. That doesn't sound very affordable to me. You can't buy a property for that. So how do you do affordable housing? And ratifying the Trump plan is, to me, kind of like, let's vote on it, and then we'll let you look at it later. You know, Nancy Pelosi's, let's pass it, and then when you pass it, then we'll let you know what's in it. It's kind of like that. We know what's in it, but the passing before it's ready, that doesn't work. You got to make it ready. So my suggestion is, and being on the planning commission is, I know what the story is. Don't plant things on people's property, and it'd make a lot of people a lot happier. On the golf course, on mine, whoever's got property you're planting these things for, I would like you to look at it. I came into your neighborhood and said, I'm going to take your house and 8 more. We're going to wipe them out and put a community center in there. How would you feel about it? That's the way we feel about it. I don't want my property on there as being used by somebody for something. That needs to end. It's very offensive.
Honorable Mayor and City Council of Fruit Heights. I'm George Hall. I live on Par 3 Circle in Fruit Heights, which is not on the golf course. But I am asking that the possible use of the Davis Park Golf Course for any kind of residential development be removed from the general plan. Yes, it's a general plan. A plan is something that you implement at some time in the future. And I don't believe that changing that golf course into residential properties should be in the plan at all. The comparison I would make, and I don't think there's a person in this room that would rather live in New York City. But somebody, so in yesteryear, staked out that Central Park and said this will be a park. And no matter what the residential values become or the commercial values, this is going to be our park. Now, I don't think Fruit Heights is ever going to be Manhattan, but the idea is the same. We need to stake out some public green space, and it should be untouchable. It can't be in the plan, in a contingency, if things get bad, that we'll build houses there. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Jared Hall. I live in 1366 East Heights Way, so I'm the neighbor behind you here in the building. So thank you for your time, thank you for the time and effort that went into developing the general plan. That was clearly no small task. I understand this plan has been in development for some time, but as someone reviewing it closely now, I felt it was important to share a few concerns before approval. After reading it carefully, I'd like to raise a concern regarding how much of the plan's long-term vision depends on the Davis County Golf Course becoming available at some point in the future. While the plan states that the city does not intend to actively pursue redevelopment of the golf course, many of its impactful objectives, including the creation of a town center, expanded housing options, major transportation connectivity improvements, and the strong remains unchanged long-term, which I don't believe is viable. Scenario B, partial or full redevelopment, which I'm still not sure is viable. For each scenario, it would be helpful to identify which goals of future land use decisions. I also want to note that some of the commercial or retail rezonings under consideration are immediately adjacent to existing residential properties, including my neighborhood. My concern isn't opposition to commerce, it's consistency. The general plan repeatedly emphasizes preserving open space on the east side of the city and protecting neighborhood character. Incremental commercial expansion in these areas appears to move in the opposite direction and places disproportionate impacts on adjacent homeowners. Parks and trails adjacent to homes consistently add value and livability. Golf courses do as well. While commercial uses placed immediately next to residences tend to transfer noise, traffic, and lighting impacts onto those homeowners, which is why most plans place open space, not retail, at residential edges. I fully understand the difficulty of trying to achieve all of these objectives in a small community that is nearly built out. Unlike a master plan development, Fruit Heights must work within existing constraints, which makes prioritization and clarity even more important. That said, I have concerns about approving the plan as it's currently written without further clarification, as I'm not convinced the most actionable elements fully achieve the stated goals without creating unintended consequences. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis Savage, 853 East Apple Blossom Way. Yes, I'm the Savage that shows a trail going up the side of my yard, across to the front, over the front of my house, and out to the street. It was a little alarming. No, it was a lot alarming, okay? Hate bringing up something that's already brought up, and I'll be short. But why are we to believe that if this plan is ratified tonight or whenever it's ratified, that it's going to change? It hasn't changed in 4 years. It was really shocking to see the plan and the elements, especially the golf course being consumed partially by housing, retail, and other things. So that's my question is, why ratify a plan that should have been done right in the first place? I felt it was a really poorly developed plan. I wondered where these guys got their ideas. Taking personal property and saying, hey, there's going to be a trail through here. Doesn't make sense at all.
Thank you, Doug.
I'm Terry Hars. I live at 264 Florence Circle, which is on the corner of Florence Circle and Green Road. And I think a lot of skepticism when it comes to this general plan. I've lived here 22 years in Fruit Heights. I love it. I adore it. I do feel like it's a city of good neighbors. And so what my experience is in the 22 years I've lived here is, I've heard that they were going to build a wall on Highway 89. That obviously has come to fruition. But my issue is they built that frontage road along the east side that goes, connects Peachtree and Green and Cary Drive. And so I brought to their attention, and it was years ago before it happened, I brought to the council and the mayor's attention and the city planning manager that they were going to do this frontage road. And I asked why, because within that time, there was a large field that the Greens owned that they had built the big development with all the houses there, that's Alberta, and that connects Green Road to Peachtree. And so there's a road called Alberta that connects those two roads. And I asked them specifically, I said, why are we building a frontage road along there just as an extra road? There's no homes there. There's just where they built a well. And I said, why are you doing that? And they said, because it's in the master plan. It's always been in the master plan, and that's why we're doing the road. I said, what wasn't in the master plan was this new development that has that road that already connects. These roads are 50 yards maybe apart. They run north and south, and again, there's no homes on that frontage road, but I was told that because that frontage road was on the master plan, it had to be built. And so my issue is, what wasn't on the master plan was that other set of houses that was built and the road that was built that should have taken care of all of that. But they were so they were so lacking in listening to what we as citizens were trying to say. It was a waste of money. It's there, and right now it's just a speedway for people to get on Sundays to that church as fast as they can. So, and people are using that road, but at the same time, they said that it was for connectivity, so if there was ever an emergency in Fruit Heights, we had a way of getting out of the city. The funny thing is we all have to go to Mountain Road. There's no connectivity whatsoever. We all have to go to Mountain Road to get out of this city no matter what. So that's where there's so much hesitancy when it comes to this plan, is that because it was in the plan, it had to be done. And it's a pointless road. So that's all I'm saying. So that's why I just want to kind of clarify why there's so much skepticism on this plan. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Just, some of that road was on the states, for UDOT's, that frontage road was on their master plan, and they did 89, so that's part of that part going across there in front of that area.
I was told it was a city, so that's where.
I'm Stephanie Huser. I live at 1416 East Heights Way, so this is my backyard right here. I have just two comments, I'll be quick as well. Back last year, when they said the general plan was valid. My concern is like the first gentleman. It never passed with 3 votes. If you go back to that meeting, there were 3 votes. If we are to abide by the laws, I feel like the council should have to abide by the laws as well, with 3 votes in order to even pass the general plan. So the point is almost a null topic because it's not valid, it's not in place. My other thought is, if we need moderate income housing, which I agree, it has to be on the general plan. Why can we not look at apartments, basement apartments? Those are moderate income housing. I don't feel like that's being taken into consideration because I know at least 6 basement apartments in my neighborhood that could be used and taken into consideration as moderate income housing as opposed to using property to build new things. Maybe there could be a tax break or something for people who do have a basement apartment there. I understand we need to have it. Todd Anderson, who is the moderate income housing coordinator for the state, told us that there is no set amount that needs to be on the general plan. The city just needs to show progress in order to try and acquire more moderate income housing. So I think thinking outside the box might be a better fit.
Hi, Mayor and City Council. I'm Elizabeth Nielsen. I live at 1189 East Fence Post Road. I have been, or moved to Fruit Heights when I was 3 years old. I have been here a very, very long time, and I love this place, and I love all it is, and I actually am sad how developed it has become. But I feel like I need to stand and say, I don't think anybody here is arguing that we have to have a general plan. Nobody's arguing that. We know we have to have it. The situation is that you are now figuratively lying in a bed that you may or may not have created yourselves. And tonight, and in the coming months, you have a choice to make. You can either stay in the bed, pull the covers over your head, and tell everybody to get away so you can get your beauty rest, or you can awake and arise, get up, clean the sheets, remake the bed, fluff the pillows, and create a bed that is comfortable for all involved. There are options. We live in a wonderful neighborhood, and as I have listened and tried to understand, I've studied the general plan, I've been listening to the comments, I've had conversations with others. We aren't just a city of good neighbors, we're a city of smart neighbors. And a lot of these people here tonight have really good ideas. Good ideas that I think could be a win-win, that could help meet what you need to do for the state, but also preserve and serve our community. And I hope you know that tonight, your decision, your vote, what you do about the ratification, it's about more than that. What you do will tell us who you serve. What you do will tell us if we can trust you. We have a lot of concerned citizens here. It appears to be more than those who initially made comment on the original general plan. I believe that there is a need to seriously take into consideration what the concerns are and to do it before ratifying that vote. I also have a comment about the general plan / general idea. I respect that you are an expert. I'm not. But if it is a general plan, then why not make it a general plan that we like? That's my recommendation. You have choices to make tonight, and in the coming months and in the future. I urge you to choose wisely. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Amy Hoagland. I live on 1031 Fairway Circle. My house backs the golf course. And I really enjoyed listening to all of you speak tonight. It's been really enjoyable, and I'd like to tell you thank you for your service. I know that it's a hard job to be in politics, so thank you. I am a former elementary teacher. I have a certificate in health and wellness coaching, and I'm currently earning my master's degree in mental health. And so I wanted to just put a plug in for nature as part of mental health. The Nichols Park Trail is a gem. It is beautiful, loved by all of Fruit Heights and Kaysville and our neighboring cities. The golf course also adds this beauty to that area and allows golfers and those going by to enjoy it. So I am proposing we protect the land, protect Nichols Trail. If you put a station park across the street from Nichols Trail, it will not be what it is today. And the neighborhoods surrounding that area will also be impacted greatly, I think in ways that we don't want them to. I agree that we should protect it as a golf course, actually. And if the county ever wants to sell it, we get private owners that want to have it be a country club, or see if we can get private owners to buy it as a city so that we can keep it as the golf course. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. All right, does anyone have, thank you for all those public comments, and they're all appreciated, and I'm taking notes. Okay, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mike Burnett, and I live on Glen Circle. And I obviously oppose the plan as it currently exists. And I want to just make a couple of comments, not to repeat things that have already been said, hopefully, but to make sure that I present some ideas. In the plan, it says plainly that Fruit Heights has no identity. I totally disagree with that. The city sign says the identity. It's a city of good neighbors, okay? A good neighbor doesn't conspire to prevent somebody from subdividing his property unless he gives an easement for a trail that he doesn't want, that the city doesn't want, that the city doesn't need. Now, me as a father and as a family planner, I have to have a budget. Everybody has to have a budget. And I have to separate my wants from my needs. The city doesn't need a trail that causes people to have to give up an easement through their property. Somebody may want that, but that doesn't change the fact that they don't need it, okay? The other thing about the identity, my kids have moved away. They were raised here. I won't tell you about the reasons why we built here, but we did in all these years ago in 1980, we moved in. But my kids didn't want me to move because they wanted my grandkids to see the city that they grew up in and have the same experiences walking up the mountain onto the trail at Bear Canyon, okay? These kind of things encroach on that identity that the city has always had, and I resist them. I don't think they're needs. They may be wants, but they're not needed. Anybody can walk up to the trailhead for Bear Canyon and walk up there right now. We don't need a paved walkway to guide us up there. We don't need a lighted trail. We need a natural trail like has been mentioned, okay? So the other thing about the business park and all the things that are in there, the estimates for revenue, you'd have to build a Walmart or a Home Depot to get the revenue that they put in the plan. And the costs are so deflated to maintain the trails and everything else, it's a bad plan with bad justification. Okay, and finally, I just want to say, people always say when they're trying to be progressive, okay? I hate the word progressive, okay? Because it's a misnomer. They always say, that was then and this is now. And looking at the previous mayors, Mayor Brand and others, Okay, just let me finish one sentence. It's not that was then and this is now. It was that was them and this is us. They protected the identity of the city. What are we going to do? I'll leave it at that.
Anyone else have, we are at 8:20 PM, we have a long ways to go on this agenda. Does anyone have something that they think has not already been said? You're welcome to say it, otherwise we would move on. Do you want to step up to the mic? The recording, the YouTube streaming cannot hear anyone who's not on a mic. So if you want to, can you come up to ask a question?
We can say that.
There's
a mic right here.
Thank you. In the general plan,
You might say your name.
Jillian Butler. The property that we're on right now, what is the general plan for that? Is it apartments?
The property that we're on right now here?
Yeah, so are you gonna demolish this building and do apartments?
Okay, no one is talking about demolishing a building. This is not, there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding as if everything in the plan is about to imminently occur. That is a huge misunderstanding. This meeting is not, I don't want to turn this into a discussion about details in the plan, because that's not the purpose of this meeting. There are a lot of public meetings.
Okay, well, just, so point blank, what is
So
the
if you'd
general
like to read the
plan for
plan.
this? I'm trying to find it, but it's 187 pages or something like that. Like,
It's
that's why I'm asking you point blank, what is the general plan for this building?
Transparency, let's answer the.
Okay, but also we have to be mindful of the time, because we are going to be here pretty late, and I don't want to go into every question, what's the plan for this and this and this.
But it's important to
So the plan,
Does anybody else want to know that?
Just answer, you could have answered.
City Hall. City Hall, that is the plan for this building.
City Hall.
Development plan for this building in City Hall.
So 10 years from now, we'll still be here.
As far as anybody knows, this is the plan, this is the spot for City Hall. We don't have any plans, as the plan clearly states, and in bold print, the city has no plans to pursue development on the golf course. That is not, it states that clearly. The gentleman from Eagle Mountain spoke about golf courses. I appreciate his comments. The plan states emphatically that the city does not have plans to pursue that golf course as far as like making it sell or making it develop. That is not the purpose, that is not the desire of the city to have happen. So anyone who has read the plan would probably know that, if you've read the plan. So I invite everyone to read the plan. And this meeting tonight is not for a detailed run through, like, we can't do that in this meeting tonight. This meeting, I am glad to have all this public input. I have taken notes on everyone's thoughts, and I appreciate all those who have read the plan, and invite anyone who hasn't to do so. I have read the plan. I think most of the council members, maybe probably all of them, have read the plan. And I have copies, I printed out copies of several sections here that have been expressed concerns of people. And I'm happy to address them, but that's not the business of this meeting. We have many other things on the agenda tonight. I'm still at the public hearing, we still have several things to get to. And I hope that everyone has had their chance to say. I want everyone to feel that we have a chance to say what they would like to have said tonight. So I'm asking, so without going into minutia on the plan, do you have a public comment?
Can you just answer the question without all the fluff?
My plan is to keep the city hall here, like, that is, as far as I know, what's going to happen. Is the city hall is right here, and Harvey Park.
But on the general plan, city hall is going to be on the golf course, so what is going to be here?
So, I'm not sure, the purpose of the plan is a general idea, that's a concept that is on the plan. It's not like we're about to execute on that. I don't know, there's like a basic misunderstanding about what a plan is and why it's there and why it works.
So why ratify it?
Because a mistake was made in the previous vote.
That's what ratify
Because a
is.
mistake was
Make
made
it
in the
official.
previous vote, and that needs to be corrected.
We don't need to make it official.
I think I
So,
was understanding her point, that she understands that that's gonna happen, she's making an appropriate point. I think that you're not understanding what she's, I get exactly what she's saying. So if that happens, what is gonna be here, is what she's asking. It's not,
okay,
you're really condescending to say that we don't agree with you, because there is a plan that is really condescending.
I'm not trying to be condescending. I can see that we have a lot of, if we're all looking at the same plan, we all have a lot of different understandings of it. Because we don't, yeah, please.
The general plan right now, as it's written, doesn't have, it has this zone as park and, C2. So going forward, one of the things is that the general plan is something that is a document we are required to have statutorily. And I think that we are all three together, I really appreciate what we need to do. The answer is, it's not clearly stated what this property is going to be on the plan. Were things to be enacted today. But today, this is the city hall. We're putting in new stairs, or a new door on the front and side. We intend to keep this our city hall. I would like for us to consider all of the concerns that we're having here with the general plan. We need to absolutely move forward with our agenda for the evening, but I appreciate everyone coming out. We will have opportunities to have more public comment on the general plan. We do plan to update. So I, for my time, I refer to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great.
Someone
So,
up there to talk.
there were a couple of documents at the door when you came in. Sure.
I just want to make a comment.
Could you step to the mic, please?
My name's Matt Roundy. I live on 1450 East Green Road. And I just want to thank everybody that participated in this. And I am very proud to be part of this area because I feel I feel the same way as all of you. I feel like we've kind of been in the dark about a lot of things. I mean, when I first heard about this trail, it was publicized down in the park where the new Nichols Road Trail is. I'm on the east side of 89. But it was publicized on the park, no trail plan for Fruit Heights. Nobody knew anything about it. And so that's kind of been the mode. And I'm proud to be part of a community that has gotten together like this and have the same thoughts and ideas that I have myself and what they love and appreciate about this. And I want to see it change.
Thank you.
I have read the general plan, all 163 pages of it. The map on the general plan shows that this area will be called mixed use. Mixed use as defined in the general plan is residential development within commercial district in an effort to establish a vibrant activity center. These areas will typically feature attached residential units located over ground floor retail, but may take other forms as well. There's some other things in there. It's activity centers, housing. It doesn't show, that's what it shows in this spot, per the general plan on page 21.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. All right, we do need to move on with our agenda. I appreciate all the public comment that has been given. There is not a, do or die about this vote. This is a correction for a mistake that occurred in a vote earlier. That is all it is. And we need to bring down the level of anxiety about the fact, or about thinking that things can't be changed in the plan. They can always be changed. Plans are often changed. Small changes are called amendments. Larger changes occur on a regular basis for general plans on a time scale of every 5 to 8 years or so. And that's because those cost money. They take money and resources to accomplish, and therefore you don't engage in them every 2 or 3 or 4 years, because that is kind of a waste of money and resources for a city to do. We can make small changes. Amendments can be offered. That is a totally legitimate process. and it can be done. Does it have to be done this very moment and before we ratify? It doesn't. We
Yes,
have.
it does.
Everything
It
Yes, it
does.
does.
Every single person here.
Every person has
Every
asked you
person
to
here.
support us.
But, yes, we have one more person, and I do want to move with our agenda, because we are getting later and later. I just want to make clear that ratifying represents simply correcting a past mistake.
You're not listening to us.
Not true.
Okay, so we will have opportunity of listening.
For the record.
Okay.
Dan Davidson.
Dan Davidson.
Yep. Right there on Abrams Way, right in the ground zero of all the havoc that UDOT created for us. Anyway, I want to just reemphasize that ratification is to make official, and I want the transparency of what is the mistake that you're trying to fix, and why does releasing a whole new plan fix that mistake? What is the mistake? Just, can you tell me?
We failed to get 3 A votes, we got 2 EA votes.
So you failed to pass the plan before, that's the mistake?
Improper.
It was an improper vote. We're correcting an improper vote.
Okay,
That's
so.
all we're doing. Brad?
Yeah, Mayor, thank you. And I just want to say I appreciate everyone. Yeah, I'm the city attorney. My name is Brad Christopherson. I think it's important that we understand a couple of things. Number one, what we're trying to fix, and I do appreciate, I think it was Jim that brought this up. Maybe it was this gentleman in front of me, I can't remember. It was one of these two gentlemen back here that said that the resolution says to ratify the general plan. And they made a good point, and I would recommend before the council takes up this resolution to ratify the vote. The reason that we're bringing this up tonight is not to shove a general plan down the city's throat that they don't want. The moderate income housing plan was a required part. We went through months and months and months, and Fruit Heights was one of the only cities, very few, of a handful of cities that did not pass that on time. And the moderate income housing plan that was due in December of 2022. We did not meet our deadline. During that legislative session of 2023, Fruit Heights was brought up multiple times in legislative committees as an example of what not to do and why the state had to come down and add additional penalties to make sure that the cities listened and passed moderate income housing plans. I don't like the legislation either. Everyone up here, especially Councilmember Moss and Councilmember Anderson, didn't like it either. They were here and part of that. They didn't like it, that's why they voted no. But Councilmember Moss, during the campaign, brought up that there was an improper procedure that took place with that vote. And kudos to her for bringing it up. It needs to be addressed. That's what we're doing, and that's the only thing we're trying to do. When the moderate income housing plan was created, I spent hours with it. Jeff, the city planner, spent hours with it. Brandon Green spent hours with it. We brought it back to the council. We brought it back to the planning commission. There were multiple meetings. There were public hearings. There were open houses. Whether or not you were aware of that isn't because the city didn't publish it as required by law. They did. Councilmember Moss has brought into question whether or not it really was. We were able to find some records that shows that it was. Councilmember Moss challenged those. We showed her the law where it said, if you don't make a challenge to the notice requirements, it is deemed valid. Now that's not to say that we want to overrun and send everybody home and tell them they're not valid. Your points are valid, your input is necessary and important. That's not what we're trying to do here, and we're not trying to, again, shove this down your throats as residents that don't want it. This is a requirement by state law. We went through, in that state code of the moderate income housing plan, there were, and I'm not going to remember the names because of the numbers of these, but there were about 26, maybe 28 different menu choices that every city had to choose a certain number of. We met the minimum number, and the minimum number was pointing out that the Davis County Golf Course was an opportunity, not that we were developing it. And all we did is say this is a potential place that moderate income housing could be placed based on everything else in the city that's already built out. The other thing that we did is we included, that was brought up tonight, and I'm grateful for that, the internal accessory dwelling units. We put those in that as one of the menu options. We got the minimum number of options. So I don't believe that it has been modified since 2023. It's possible it has. So the only thing that my recommendation was to ratify the vote that was held. And I did draft that, and I put general planning, so I'm making the recommendation to change that before you adopt it, to modify the vote that was held. And the only reason is so that this issue of whether or not we have a valid plan, not that it's an enforced plan that's going to be implemented next week, but that we have a valid plan that avoids any penalties from the state. Because there are daily penalties, and Mayor and I worked through those and put that out in her memo, and we did, the amount of work that we put into this is, you would not believe. We're not taking you seriously. We're spending hours and hours on this. I can't tell you how many hours I spent with Councilmember Hale. I can't tell you how many hours I spent with the mayor. I can't tell you how many hours I spent with Blake. I can't tell you how many hours I spent with Gary Anderson. They are taking you seriously and listening to this. Darren, I spent hours with, just so we can get this right, just so we can get this. We're not trying to do anything to harm you, to develop the golf course. Furthest thing from it, we're trying to simply comply with the state code. That's it. There's nothing behind that. Nobody else has a general plan that has created so much controversy until it was raised in that 2 years after the vote was taken, 2 years after the vote was taken, that it's raised. Why didn't those council members who were there, if it was such an issue, raise it 2 years ago? I'd ask you a question. I'd ask you that question. So, none, because they're all compliant. But my advice is to not have any risk from the state coming back. The state looked over our plan, on the moderate income housing plan specifically, it's required by state to look at it. They looked at it. They approved it. And we are compliant as far as the state goes. If we try to undo that at this point, I don't know what the risk is. It's just more than if you don't undo it.
Shouldn't we understand that before we make a decision?
Okay, you're talking about risks. The only risk here of not ratifying it is then you're not in compliance with state law. That's the risk.
It's gonna get updated, so
So
you should understand the risk.
What it looks like to me is the state says we want this, you're saying, okay, here it is, we're never gonna do it. Well,
the same thing, the Supreme Court says every city in the state or in the country has to have a place that they can locate a sexually oriented business. Do you know where Fruit Heights place that they named to put a sexually oriented business is?
City shops.
The city shop. Do we ever want?
I was looking for it, I couldn't find it.
The reason we do that is to comply with the law, because we don't want it. And if you have a golf course that is zoned as open space, and there's like multiple dominoes would have to fall for that to ever come to fruition. Number one, Davis County would have to agree to sell their portion to a developer. Number two, Fruit Heights would have to agree to sell their portion of the golf course. Number three, the Fruit Heights City Council and Planning Commission would have to make a positive recommendation and vote to rezone it to allow anything else other than open space. The reason we named it there is because the council right now has absolute control over that. Absolute zoning control over that. So if it's never changed zones, which you can't challenge and you can't force, that's the reason we did that. To comply with the state law, put it in the general plan, check off that box. Whether it's disingenuous or not is irrelevant. The state saw it as approved and we moved forward. That's it. There's nothing hiding behind this. There's no conspiracy. There's no attempt to develop it. We've never had a meeting with one developer to develop this, not one. The only meetings that ever occurred that even talked about anything related to that was the general plan meeting. That's
Why
it.
can't you just use the controversy to put more than one housing on this land instead of the golf course? State law does mandate public open space.
So here-
Let me finish, please.
Absolutely, please.
State law does mandate public open space requirements. Why cannot, this has been brought up earlier, why can we not mandate the golf course, Nichols Park, in that area, as public open space for perpetuity? That can be done under legislation.
That's it. That's it. And a future council can undo it, right? So, yes, you can do that, but there's always ways around.
So why are we having a controversy in the first place? Because we could have done that, low-income housing, sorry, affordable, what do you want to call it?
Well, that's a misnomer.
Right here.
Yeah, sure. There was no plan. So here's my recommendation to this solution. I'm risk averse. My job is to protect the city from risk. I don't want to have this council have to come back and say, And I don't know what the level is, because I don't want to ask the legislature what their tolerance is, or whether they think that they should come back and reopen this for Fruit Heights.
That's transparent.
The risk is a daily fine for not having a moderate income housing plan passed, and it was $250 a day.
For 3 years. If these communities was paying tax dollars for that line covered, I hope we get this right the first time. Nobody doesn't want to pay that risk, this city council with the plan, have to
Excuse me.
We don't trust
Hey,
Okay.
I'm sitting in the mic, no one online can hear that, we're not being able to record this, and this is getting off track.
So here's my recommendation. My recommendation hasn't changed on whether we ratify the vote, so we don't have to deal with the possibility of the state coming back and finding the city. The next thing that I would recommend is staff do one of two things, and they can take the council recommend one of two things. Take a vote and say, staff, we want you to come back and we want you to dig into that menu list and see if there's any possibility of any other option other than the golf course to be included in there. If there's any other option, we will bring it back very next council meeting. We will make this our #1 priority because this is a priority for the residents. Number two, if we find anything related, so I want to address the trail. The trail, that has been, just for your information, on the general plan for 30 years. Right now, I believe we have, and I'm not going to get these numbers right, but there's 1 or 2 parcels or easements that the town has, that Fruit Heights has, and there are, I think, maybe 15 or 20 that we have to have before a trail can, 12, okay, it's only 12, that we would have to have before they ever got built. It's been on there 30 years. We're not doing comments here back and forth.
Well, my property is being held hostage until I give that easement. I can't build on my property until the city, and then until I give the city the easement.
Can we purchase these? Can we purchase these?
No, they said I cannot.
Well, if you listen to the last council meeting, we talked about that. Well, I addressed that in a follow-up email with the council. And it's, the council would have to pay for it.
Yeah, pennies on the dollar is what we were offered.
So I can subdivide that lot right now.
Do a search on Nolan versus
With the city paying for the easement to the trail.
So I have to be able to easement.
It's on the general plan.
See?
The city can amend that, so. It's not extortion, it's part of an exaction process and it's perfectly legal, it happens every day. But, so we're not in the 9th Circuit and it's been upheld in Utah,
So you're carrying off citizens.
I did not put that in the general plan, so it doesn't matter. They can. Relax.
Okay.
So the next recommendation is to review whether or not you want to keep that in the general plan on the trails. And then finally, Councilmember Moss said something was wrong with the Green Road section of the general plan. I don't remember what it was. Those are the 3 issues that we've heard brought up over and over again with multiple emails. And again, there is that general plan and that trail has been there for 30 years. And in 30 years, the city's acquired 2 out of 15. So anyway, and Councilmember Moss has been there for every general plan. It's been there for 30 years.
You do have the trail both in our front yard of Green Road and through the middle of our property.
Right.
But you need 2 trails.
And there's lots of trails throughout the city that are on general.
So I think we need both.
I think it would be fair to allow Councilmember Moss to say something here. So I was on the planning commission when we adopted the general plan back in 2003. And at that point in time, there was no idea what was going to happen with Highway 89. We, at that time, in fact, even when we had our Highway 89 committee, there was discussion that Green Road could be an off-ramp for Highway 89. If that were the case, then Green Road would be a very busy road. My position at this point has been that Green Road is a perfectly acceptable spot for people to come up out of, from crossing underneath Highway 89, because it's not a busy road, and because of the
topography and the wall that is there, it will never be a busy road. And so my suggestion has been that while we did not know what to expect back in 2003, we do know what to expect now and why we need to have that trail there. And I actually made that as a motion to amend the general plan back in 2023, and it did not receive a second, and it died. I actually had several motions that I was hoping to make as amendments to the general plan. Diane Anderson and I had been asked to represent the city council in working with the company that was doing the general plan. I brought up in a couple different meetings that I felt like the community was not being listened to as we were developing different parts of the general plan. And I was always assured, don't worry, we're going to address this at some point. And then at the point where we could have addressed it, we did not address it. We took a plan that was given to the Planning Commission just a few days before a supposed public hearing, which by state law should have been advertised on the state website, and was not. And you are correct, the state law also says that in a public hearing, if no one challenges it, then it becomes moot, and I understand that point. But what I'm saying is, I feel like that has been disrespectful to the citizens of our community because things have changed. And I feel like I have the right to defend myself as far as my position on the general plan. And things can change and opinions can change based on the changes that have happened in the last 20 years since our previous general plan.
No disagreement.
Okay, so,
Please close the public hearing.
we're going to move on from the public comments portion of the agenda. I hope everyone has felt that they had a chance to make their comments and to be heard. I made a point in my mayor's memo message. There is a difference between process and content. And these are two separate things. A vote to ratify is a vote to correct a previous mistake in the process. It is not the content of the plan. The content of the plan is a separate issue, and it is one that is ongoing. I have proposed to council and to planning commission that we meet together annually, that we review the plan and bring the feedback that has been offered from residents, and also reviewing what new laws may apply, keeping in mind we are 2 weeks into the current legislative session, wherein new law may be passed that may affect general planning. And it may have a lot of bearing. What if we go ahead right now and do an amendment and, by the middle of March, we're looking at a totally new law that we need to. It's not an opportune time tonight or this week to make definite changes. It is an opportune time to accumulate the ideas which have been presented and to keep them all in mind and combine and compare all of our notes and what we've heard said tonight. And then to watch and see what happens with the legislature. And at a point after that we meet together as council and planning commission and bring all this information and review what the law would be at that point if there have been changes, and there very well could be. And that we spend our time and our resources wisely in doing that when it can be most effective, rather than doing it again and again and again over a short course of a few months. I don't want anyone to feel that they're not being heard. That you are heard, these concerns are noted, they're heard. There is not an attempt to hide, there's not an attempt to rush. Ratification does not mean that the door is closed. Ratification means that we correct a past mistake. That's all it means. That we dispel any doubt that our city does indeed have the required legal modern housing and general plan in place without shadow of a doubt of an improper vote that occurred. That's all it is. It's housekeeping. And please don't worry that a vote to ratify is somehow violating anyone's right to be heard or any opportunity for the plan to be changed in the future. It just is not the case. We plan to have further conversations about this with the Planning Commission. We plan to bring this feedback to them. The plan is open to amendment. It is the nature of general plans to be open to amendment. And many ideas have been brought, and they're all welcome, okay? We have a large community. Not everyone in the community is here tonight, so there are others to think about. Other neighborhoods that may or may not be represented here tonight. And as council, we have to keep that in mind. Okay, I see hands, but we have spent a lot of time. If you have something new to offer, because we need to move on with our agenda.
Thank you, Jeannie, I appreciate it. I just want to make the point that right now you can delete any paragraph that's undesirable in the plan, but once it's ratified, you have to follow a process to amend it. That's the point we're trying to make tonight. Why rush to ratify when you can very easily go ahead and pick and delete? Yes, there is. Because like the state.
Come on, let's move on.
We need to move on. This has been repeated again.
Move on.
This has been repeated again and again. Ratification does not represent, like not being able to change anything. Does not represent that. We need to move on. Jenny, let's talk after the meeting. You have said twice, and this is the third time. Okay.
No.
We're not in a discussion period now. It's almost 9 o'clock. Okay, so that question has been addressed. In the handout I have given you tonight, there is a general plan development timeline that can be renewed. This is out of the public record. I spent hours filming this, going through all the agendas. Anyone could have done it. This is a timeline of all the meetings that were held. They were public, they were open to comment, they were open to, some were open houses. There was a 6-week period of information gathering from residents. There was a website that was live with interactive maps. There was a lot of effort to get public input. If any of you here were not a part of that, I'm so sorry. The city did make efforts. The company we contracted with made efforts to publicize that. And please be a part of it in the future. You're a part of it right now by having offered your comments. This was not done quickly, this was not done secretly. This was done over a series of many, many public meetings with many efforts to gather public input. And it is still that way. Public input is still solicited and wanted. And further changes will occur. A vote to ratify does not cancel that out. It is an ongoing process we are still engaged in. Okay. We're moving on to presentations. Our coordinators have been here for almost 2 hours to give their report. I should have moved you guys up. I'm really sorry. 5.1, the city council report.
We need our address. Or just our name. Okay. Josh Cox from 462 South, 1400 East.
I'm Kate Young from 1551 Nichols Road.
I'm JD Young, and I'm also from 1551 Nichols Road.
Our activity this month is that we went to Day on the Hill, like Madam Mayor said. We got to tour it and find out how our government works and talk to some representatives. And then again, like she said, we did have a dinner with the senator and he addressed us, and it was really educational and cool.
Can we not have a conversation going on?
Yeah, let's.
Right now during our report privacy.
Guys, please, hey, please give the respect to our youth. And if you want to have a conversation, you'll have to probably go outside since the building's under construction. But we got to stop the other conversations going on. It's not respectful to our youth.
This week we're gonna go to the police station, I think. Sheriff's Department, that's right. And we're gonna tour it, I think. And I think that's gonna be a good learning opportunity for us.
What is that?
That's on Thursday. Thursday at 4.
And then we had our meeting last night for February, and then we also are excited to go to a USU Leadership Conference in March. So cool. Any questions from you guys?
Okay. It's going to be a great opportunity for you guys. I'm glad to support you in all this good civic learning and leadership learning opportunities. Thanks for everything you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5.2, Gilbert and Stewart CPA's audit reports.
Good evening. This will be the really exciting part of the council meeting, going over the audit. My name is Ron Stewart. I'm with Gilbert & Stewart CPAs. We are contracted to do the audit for Fruit Heights City for the fiscal year ended June 2025. What we'd like to do is just take a couple of minutes, explain to you what we do as auditors, the procedures that we went through, the conclusions that we came to, and how we came to those conclusions. So for an audit, there's really three areas that we're looking at. We want to make sure first that the financial statements are materially correct, they meet accounting standards, and they can be relied upon. The second thing is we want to make sure that internal controls are designed, implemented, and they're effectively working. And we want to make sure that you're in compliance with state law based on the areas that we looked at during this fiscal year.
Excuse me, could you get closer to the mic?
And could we, this also, please, if you're having other conversations, please step outside.
Okay, so as far as the financial statements go, we take the trial balance or the numbers of the city, and we perform a number of tests on those. Some of those tests include confirmations. We'll send out confirmations to third parties as far as cash, property taxes, sales tax, B&C roads, URS allocations, anything that we can get our hands on to send a confirmation to a third party to make sure that our books are matching theirs. We pull a number of invoices during the year. At the beginning of the audit, we pull a number of invoices. We want to make sure that the invoice matches the check, that it's posted the proper period in the proper GL account, and that the controls are being followed as we go through that. We also do it, we pull a number of invoices after the end of the year to make sure that the expenses are coded to the proper period. We pull invoices for capital assets and other areas that we feel like we need to look at to get a better understanding. We do a lot of analytical reviews. We'll compare this year to last year. We do that at the beginning of the audit. We do that as we're going through individual balances, just so we can understand the differences from this year to last year, what's happening and why those changes have happened. And then we do it again as the financial statements are written, so we make sure we can understand all those. On these financial statements, there's a number of calculations that go into those. So part of our procedures are to go back and recalculate those. We recalculate depreciation expense, accrued payroll, URS allocations, compensated absences. Anything where there's a calculation, we'll go through and make sure those meet accounting standards. There's a significant other number of tests that we do to make sure that the financial statements are materially correct. Our opinion paragraph says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities and business type activities of the city as of June 30, 2025, and the respective changes in financial position and, where applicable, cash flows thereof for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. That's a clean opinion, an unmodified opinion, the best opinion that you can receive. So in short, through our testing, evaluations, and procedures, we feel that the financial statements are materially correct. They do meet accounting standards, and these numbers can be relied upon. The second area we look at is internal controls. We don't give an opinion on controls, we do evaluate those controls to make sure that they're designed, that they're implemented, and they're effectively working. We do that through interviews, walkthroughs, questionnaires. So as we're pulling these invoices, we're making sure that the controls are being followed to protect the assets of your city. Through our procedures and walkthroughs, if there was a portion of your city that just didn't have controls, or those controls are just not as effective as they once were, we would consider that either a material weakness or a significant deficiency. And we'd obviously bring that to your attention in writing and here in this meeting. Through our interviews and procedures, we feel that the controls have been designed, implemented, and are effectively working. So there's no findings or issues that we need to bring to your attention. The third area we look at is state compliance. The state auditor gives us certain areas that we're supposed to review each year. This year, within your city, we looked at budgetary compliance, fund balance, restricted taxes, fraud risk assessment, government fees, cash management, enterprise fund transfers, tax levy revenues, impact fees, Utah retirement systems, and crime insurance and public treasures. State auditor gives us certain procedures to go through for each one of these areas. We go through those areas and determine whether you're in compliance with those areas with the state law. Through our evaluations and testing, there was one issue that we needed to bring to your attention, and that is there was one report that is required to be filed. It's called a deposit investment report with the state that did not get filed timely. So that was a finding. It's called a deposit and investment report. And I think that was just a miscommunication between different people thinking they were the ones that were supposed to be preparing that report, but it wasn't. So that's been corrected, and that's the only really compliance issue that came to our attention. So that's a really quick review of what we do as auditors, what we did, and the conclusions we came to. I'm happy to answer or entertain any questions from the council.
Thank you. Council, any questions for our auditor?
That's great work.
Thanks. Good work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Documents that you received and for your work, and great job, Darren, also passing our audit with essentially flying colors. But it's not really all that. Okay, 5.3 annual training from our city attorney is required that public bodies receive annual training on the Open Public Meetings Act in Utah. And we will now receive that training from our attorney, Ryan Christopherson.
Mayor, real quick, just due to the late hour, do you want to table this and bring it back next time, or?
How we could do that?
So there's no state requirement on how long I have to take, but given the nature of the Open and Public Meetings Act training, I think it's important to give it what it deserves and what it's just due. It's especially the number of residents here. I think it's important to understand what requirements you're under. So I'm happy to do it tonight, and I try to do it as briefly and concisely as I can. But it's up to you guys.
I'd like to take the time to go through it as thoroughly as we can. We need a motion to table it.
To table it, you would need a motion to table it, to next time.
I don't want to cut it shorter than it has to be, or that it should be. I do want to have thorough training on this and time for asking questions on it.
I can do it, but it's up to you if the time is a big concern.
Perhaps we should table it for next time. Do we have a motion to do that? I'm saying that in the interest of being able to give it its due time and not feel rushed, and that we can't have time to have discussion questions should that arise.
And you have to have it annually. There's nothing that requires it to be done tonight. So.
Yeah, it's not on a deadline. It's just
right.
Annual.
Yep.
Is it 10 minutes or a half hour?
I think it's longer than
probably closer to a half hour.
Yeah, it's longer than that, and it's important information, and it is good that we have this training every year. I'm open to tabling it.
I'd like to make a motion that we table the Open and Public Meetings and Ethics Act training for next time.
I have a motion to table it for next time, due to the time. Do I have a second?
Before we get to that point, you said you sound like you were going to say something. I just want to make sure. Second.
I have a second from Blake. Any discussion, or feelings about what we express? Everyone who is in favor of this motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no. Okay, the motion passes. So we will hear our training next time. Thank you, brother. It is now 9:04 p.m. It's not a bad suggestion. I would like us to have adequate time for that training. Okay, moving into a public hearing for water rates at 9:05 p.m. Opening a public hearing.
Jan, give us an overview before we.
That is about what I was about to say. Thank you. So Darren is going to give us an overview of information regarding our water rates. And
Mayor.
we will have it open for public hearing. Absolutely.
I can't see it from here. So, Mayor, Council, residents, this is our public hearing for our water rate increase for this year. That are continue to rise, continue to be an expense for the city. I reviewed a lot of different things. We had a study done by Zions Bank for a rate study in 2004. Now, and each year the council has asked me to review those and make sure we're collecting enough money, but not necessarily collecting way too much money. I've done some reviews and just a couple things that to put out. One of the increases that will continue to rise over the next couple of years is the contract water we purchased from Weber Basin for culinary water. This year was an increase of about 7.5%, which brought us close to $344,000 for the water we purchased. In January 2007, the cost estimate for that same water is $385,000, which is about a 12% increase. And the following year that they sent their estimate for is $424,000 approximately for the increase, which is another 10.5% increase. Our water rates this year, I'm proposing about a 4.5% increase to cover the increase not only in the Weber Basin water that we purchased for culinary, but also other costs that have extremely gone up over the last few years. As before when we were talking, just a cost of a hydrant before 2020 was about $4,000 for the city to have a hydrant installed. Currently, that's about $10,000. That's the difference in the cost of materials and to run our water system and be able to provide drinking water for our community. We use a tier usage rate per 1,000 gallons. So you're charged for each 1,000 gallons you used at a different rate. There's two things along with that. It promotes conservation. The second thing is that's required by the state of Utah. To have a conservation rate where people conserve water. So this is the proposal, the 2026 increase that would go into effect if the council approves it. But it is open to the public if there's any comments.
Okay, so we can see from that table the 2026 rate. Yeah.
Bridge runner as well.
Okay, it's on Bridge Runner as well, that you're pointing out to me, so.
So when you get the Bridge Runner in the mail.
If you've got that in your hand, you can see it up closer. Okay, yeah. The screen is too hard to see, you've got that there. So we are in a public hearing, are there any?
No, I'll make a motion to move into public hearing.
I'll
We
second.
need a motion to move into public hearing? Okay.
No.
Motion.
You don't need one. Mayor Pullman would like to do that, but it's not required. You can just.
Okay.
To close it.
So we'll take a motion to close it.
In the past, we've always done, so thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have moved into a public hearing. Public comments. Anyone have a comment or a question you'd like to step to the mic regarding water rates?
Yeah, thank you. Again, I'm Mike Burnett, 359 South Glen Circle. I'm just wondering, with the base rate, what is the number of gallons you get in the base rate?
The base rate.
The base rate is just to have that connection to your home.
Okay.
And then per every 1,000 gallons that you are used, you're charged for that 1,000 gallons.
Okay, so it's a per capita The more you use.
The more water you use, the higher your water bill is.
Okay, thank you.
Jim Lamb, 18 South Country Lane. I just had some general questions. How much revenue do we get each month from the water bills? Do we know how much that is? Roughly.
I'll give you a rough estimate. For all the water that we receive, it's pretty close to about $90,000.
90,000?
0 or 98?
90.
90.
Yeah, and we budgeted this year to have a revenue of $1,150,000, and that runs our water fund, which has to be ran on its own and be able to stay in the black. It can't be part of the general fund and those kind of things. It has to be its own fund, so it has to be able to support itself. And so as you go through and you have.
That's for the whole year, the 1,050,000. So how much are the costs per month about?
The cost of.
The cost of the whole fund.
Per month?
Per month.
It really depends. It's divided out. You're probably not a whole lot less than that, but because you're also trying to collect a small amount of money so you do projects. Because once again, if it's a water line project or something like that, you have to have the funds to pay for that. Because we don't go into debt in this city to do projects, we save money, and that's how we save the money by collecting a little bit more for those things.
So how much are our costs for the whole year? We're budgeting $1,050,000.
The cost we're right there. We balance out about even by the time we do projects and those kind of things, the costs are covered by what we collect.
So isn't there a bunch left over at the end of the month that we then transfer from the enterprise fund to the general fund?
No, none of the water fund goes to the general fund it stays in the water fund. The water fund has to operate its own.
Jim used to be on the city council when life was a little different. And so that is state law now that the enterprise funds have to act independent of other funds and they have to pay their own way. So we have to have enough money in that enterprise fund to pay for, a saddle that goes bad or and all of those things. But so there is
so at the end of the year, nothing is.
There's no transfer out of that enterprise fund from the general fund. And if we run short and we transfer money from the general fund in, that's kind of a no-no.
It creates a loan where you have to pay that back out of that fund.
Yeah.
Okay. The state has partitioned certain funding from going from water into our general fund into water. They want to make sure that the money that we're collecting for water is not spent on anything.
Which is an interesting thought.
I'm not going to say anything else because that fund also covers wages that has to deal with the water system. Covers costs for the city building, for buildings and all those kind of things that go out. Those are charged to the water fund too. So that money in that aspect is put into the general fund, but it is covering a cost from the water proportionately for that charge.
And to just explain that is because we can't have you guys not having a building, and we can't have you guys not having trucks to go and work on this stuff. So it all has to be paid for, and a portion of that just happens to come from the water fund because that is part of city business.
So years ago, the general fund some of it could be transferred into the water fund. And when the water tank was built up on the hill, which was before my time, they actually pulled money from various funds to put that together, to put that tank up there, so that we did not bond for that tank that is serving us all well. So all of us who have moved into the community since that tank was built, we all benefit from what happened with that tank, but it can no longer be funded the way it was at that time.
Okay. I was relying on old experience. I thought there was some money left over that might alleviate some of these costs. And I know I get information from Ogden City where at the end of the year, they transfer a bunch out of their water fund, their garbage fund, everything into their general fund. And I thought we were still doing it.
Thank you.
Any more public questions, comments about having to do with the water rates? Okay, seeing none, we'll look for motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion from Eileen and a second from Gary. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say nay, or no. Motion carries. We're out of the public hearing for the water rates. Item 7 on the agenda, discussion items to be considered. 7.1, resolution 2026-02, adopt updated culinary water rates.
Motion to adopt resolution.
We're not on action items yet.
Action,
Is there any discussion, any further discussion on the water rates? Table anything that concerns or anything of that kind?
I have one quick we did talk about our last city council meeting about alternatives to relying on Weber Basin water for the increase in costs. We talked about drilling additional wells, but we also just talked about the extreme costs of doing so and the risk of not only the quality of the water and the rate of the water that we would get from those. And so we kind of talked about the way to the most least risk is to proceed as we have been doing. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, we did have a little discussion there last time.
I just like to add one comment to this, that's not as direct, but we at the Capitol, the Commissioner for the Great Salt Lake spoke with us. We have the lowest impact on record, since records have been kept, and so moving forward, water. Not the city, they rely on their wells to supplement the water that they get. And that aquifer is filled from people watering the lawns. And we don't really have that in our city, so costs. In this regard, I appreciate staff being forward thinking and anticipating these costs. As much as I don't like to see that cost go up, I anticipate that if we continue to see a lack of snowfall in our mountains, that our water rates might become a little bit higher. I hope that's not the case. Thank you.
Thank you.
We still have a spring.
We do have a spring. It's used for irrigation at this time.
So, conservation is the word. This is a pretty bad water there as well there. And spring, and when sprinkler, it's time for sprinklers to go on. I encourage everybody to be very aware. And if you don't have a smart timer yet, please come see the city about one or get one that you prefer. And be conservation minded in your yard. That is something we can do. It's something we can do in this dry water layer. Really, it should be a bit harder for all of us, and we can each do our part. Any further discussion on water comments? Anything? Let's move on to 7.2, ordinance 2026-01, title 10-11-16, maximum coverage of your rear yard. This has been recommended, worked on a planning commission the last while, I think, or for some time, and is now recommended to us in this form, as we see.
So, council and mayor, this was brought to the planning commission a few months ago, and they had a public hearing on rear yard coverage. At that time, if they still wanted to continue after the comments from the public and questions that they had, they wanted to not forward that to the city council after that time, after that public hearing. They wanted to have more discussion. This last planning commission meeting, this was one of their topics that they went through, and they had worked on all the different wording that they thought was more easier to understand. It gives a definition of a backyard or a rear yard, a lot better to understand instead of just the rear yard in no description. They changed from hard surface to impervious surface to make sure there's that different definition of those different things as they went through this. They did go through, they did vote that they would recommend this to pass to the city council with their approval.
Okay, so the text that's in red is that which is new.
The text in red, yes.
So my question is on the impervious surface. One of the techniques some people are using these days is papers and then spraying them with a substance that allows them to not absorb water, making them, and so is that.
That's why they switched to making sure it's impervious, because if you change the use or the product and make it so it's no longer that, they felt that was more straightforward than just saying a hard surface, because people could use that as just had a different issue and say, well, no. So that is part of that.
The point being to be able to let water.
The water to go into the ground and not, the other thing, it talks about the drainage. They wanted that wordage in here also, talking about you're not allowed to drain onto your neighbor's property. You need to contain it onto your own property or to get it out to the public right away.
So if someone were to have an impervious surface in their backyard, that needs to be able to drain to the street or away from.
It needs to be either contained on their own property or drained out to the street. It's not to be drained on the neighbors.
How would you contain it?
Put a retaining wall.
A retaining wall, there's different things.
Okay.
Or get over into the grass where the grass can, or the impervious surface can take it. But they also wanted that in there. They also wanted to make sure sensitive lands. So where we have landscape ordinances, those rules up there were followed by those rules, not necessarily by this, because there are different rules for sensitive. Yeah, they're a lot stricter than what this ordinance is. But yeah.
Question, how is this enforced? If someone puts a large patio in their backyard, that's probably not gonna be, there's no permit required for that, right?
I will say it is a challenge to enforce it for things like that. If they're not in getting of a building permit, that makes it difficult. If they get a building permit and after their permit's approved and they go through and they've done their part, close up their backyard and extend it, the city doesn't always know, or those things. So it is a little harder, but it's a lot more defined in this new ordinance than it was previously, which I think benefits. The other part of it is they went more to the 50% because of the lots getting smaller, which, some of these lots, there isn't much backyard, and by putting in a basketball court or a pickleball court could definitely go over those marks. And so they wanted to make sure they were looking at what we have now, what we could have when they did this ordinance. So.
If the neighbor complains, what's the enforcement?
They called the city, and if it was already there, there could be different things we could have, depending on what it's doing. If they're not controlling the water and it's flooding the neighbors, there's more things we can do at that point. So the enforcement would come from the city.
Darren, was there any thought to looking at the different zones within the city meaning that our 110 zone has more open space than our 18 zone? Or was it just, let's try this?
I want to say it was more trying to make one ordinance be able to be capable to take care of. I mean, I will tell you, there was discussion of, is it the whole yard? Do we do the whole yard? Anything more than 50%? Can you have that? Well, we start looking, some of these houses take up more than 50%. You just defeated everything that happens there. So that's why they want to start going to the rear yard. And they wanted to define the rear yard instead of those kind of things. They looked at the different size of lots, bigger lots, smaller lots, and kind of went through the whole process. And that's why it did not get sent to the council immediately after, because they had more questions that they were concerned about. So I think they spent quite much time, not only themselves researching after the public hearing, but also to make sure they had the wording to where they were comfortable for the city council.
I see a strike to the word not, shall not create your word at 50%, is that correct?
It should be shall not create.
No building shall create.
Because you said no, so it would have been a double
It
negative.
would have been double negative. I took out the not for that reason, because I think that's what you intended to say. Intended there. So I think that's the only rear yard. There's another cross out there, what we got for?
It was hard to see the space.
It's the rear yard crossed out, and it's the rear yard.
Rear yard is just not separated into two words.
Yeah, that's fine.
So no other changes, just not removing unintentional double negative. Any more discussion on that, or questions from council for Darren, anything or concerns? Okay. Moving on to 7.3, resolution 2026-03, ratify and vote for the general plan discussion. We can enter into a discussion with council at this point on that item. There has already been some discussion made, of course.
I did prepare a written statement on, but would now be a good time to read through that? Okay.
David, can you speak up?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Several residents have shared concerns with me concerning the general plan, and obviously tonight as well, and I've taken those concerns seriously. I've conducted my own review, including discussions with our city attorney, Brad Christopherson, to understand the best ways to address those concerns while also ensuring that our city remains in compliance with state and county legal requirements. The current general plan was adopted in 2023. It's common practice for cities to revise their general plan every 5 to 6 years. So it's reasonable for us to begin now collecting suggestions, either for targeted amendments in the next few months or for inclusion in the next major update, which could occur as early as 2028. As a city council, we welcome feedback from all residents and want to ensure that those concerns are documented and thoughtfully evaluated. I would like to address several major concerns that have been raised to me and explain how I believe they can be responsibly managed. The first concern is trails on private property. Some people have mentioned that tonight. Some residents are concerned that trails shown in the general plan could lead to the city taking private property. Response: Utah law explicitly prohibits the taking of private property for trails. Utah Code 78B 65013A. While cities may acquire trail easements through development processes, those easements must be obtained with the property owner's consent and compensation. The city cannot build trails on private property without a voluntary agreement. My recommendation for the trails issue is, and based on legal protection, I do not believe an amendment is necessary at this time to mitigate this concern. The second concern I wanted to address was related to the potential large-scale development at the golf course. Some residents are concerned that a large development could impose significant financial burdens on the city and increase taxes. My response, the property is currently owned by Davis County, and county commissioners have publicly stated they have no plans to sell it. And number two on that is, if circumstances changed and the property were sold, any development would be required to pay for itself through impact fees, exactions, and other development requirements. Rezoning and project approval would require multiple public processes, including city council action and resident input. So even in such a scenario, the city residents would not bear the financial cost of this development. My recommendation for this issue is, while the concern is understandable, I do not believe an amendment is necessary at this time to address this issue either. The third concern is a city cemetery project. Some residents, it hasn't been brought up this evening, but some residents are concerned about the long-term financial impact of constructing and operating a city cemetery. My response is, there is currently no interest from city council or city staff in taking on new debt or financial obligations for a cemetery. The city is actively exploring alternatives that could provide cemetery services without financial burden to the city, and we expect more clarity by the end of 2026. My recommendation, based on this, I do not believe an amendment to the general plan regarding the cemetery is necessary at this time. My conclusion overall is that we ratify the existing 2023 general plan and immediately begin documenting public feedback, what we received tonight, to potential amendments or inclusion in the next comprehensive update. This approach allows us to maintain legal compliance, protect the city from risk, ensure residents' concerns are heard, tracked, and addressed through a transparent and responsible process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there some concerns raised here tonight, as well as others that have, like I said, outside of this meeting? Anyone else with comments or?
My thought process is, we have legal counsel. He works for a law firm. And I know some of you out there keep smirking and smug faces and shaking heads.
Mark, we don't need that. That is.
It's coming from you, a lot of it. But if, let me
Just one person at a time. One person at a time.
But, you know, people need to get involved. And he works for a law firm that all they do is city, county, you know, government stuff. He doesn't work for a law firm that is doing other types of law. So he is trying to protect us as a city and protect us as residents. By taking his counsel, it also helps reduce the risk for all of our residents. Yes, we have this group here, but there's a lot more residents that could be impacted one way or another. The reason I think Jeannie is saying a lot of what she's saying, that times are changing with moderate income housing, within the last couple of weeks, I saw some data that Utah is like number 7 in growth. And so we're having a lot of people moving into our state. And I think if we want to keep Fruit Heights how we have it, we want to be able to have this and have the plan that's there to make the risk go away. So those are some of my thoughts. And I also wonder, this was really strictly brought up as a political ploy. And I think that was unacceptable.
Thank you, Mark.
Can we make a comment? Can anybody make a comment?
No, I'm sorry, this is discussion. Public comment is passed. This is discussion amongst council.
So I'll make a comment. First of all,
Can you speak up?
Yeah, I'll try now.
Thank you.
First of all, I want each person in here to know that I am very aware that you have invested the majority of your working career into your house and your yard and the place that you live and the place that you call home. It is not lost on me. It it is a tough position to be in here because we have the responsibility to protect the city from the state. But we also have the responsibility to protect you, residents, from potential changes that we don't want as a community. So is there one magic bullet? No, there's not a magic bullet. We have a lot of very intelligent people here. I respect you. Personally, my thoughts are that we could probably handle this in 5 different ways. However, I know that the most likely outcome, or the most likely way that it can be handled the right way is probably to ratify this and then to go into amend the plan. Because that is probably the way that most council members will want to vote. It is also a recommended way from our attorney. And so, to me, even though I would be open to other options, I know that probably the majority would not follow that suit. And so, you need to understand that this is a very touchy and there's more things going on than just the general plan and how it affects you specifically. It is the state coming in on the city. It is the relationships between council and staff and between council members themselves. Obviously, you're seeing it right here. You've seen it right here in the last 5 minutes. You've seen the dynamics. It is a commotion. So ultimately, I hear you, and your situation is I understand it. So that's pretty much what I have to say.
Thank you.
I'm happy to, I would just like to address from my perspective of this.
Can you speak up, Blake?
Certainly. Do I need to go up or down? Can you hear me now? I'll
Thank you.
That's good. I really do, I want to echo Gary's statements. I appreciate everyone that's come out to this. I don't believe that we can be a functioning democracy or republic if we don't have the input and buy-in from our neighbors and our citizens. This has been a subject that has taken up a lot of, it's something that I have spent a lot of time sitting with. And I want to say that I am incredibly humbled this evening by the amount of people who come in good faith to share with us your feelings about the general plan. I want the movement to ratify is, in my opinion, not about the content. It is about affirming that we as a city are trying to be compliant with the state. And the context, personally, is being up on the Capitol and the rhetoric of preemption is not subtle. It's been very explicit. More than that, we've seen as local councils have lost the ability to subdivide property. I think we're going to see more bills this session and in the coming years where local authority is preempted. I echo the statements that Gary made that I don't know if there's a silver bullet for this one. I do want to say that this has been something that I have really tried to understand as best I can. And I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out and speaking with us. It means a lot.
Thank you, Luke. Mary, you have anything?
So one of the things that we have done is we do have a moderate income housing plan that has been accepted directed by the state each year. Moderate income housing plan is only based upon what we're actually accomplishing. If you read what it's saying, it's what you accomplish. It's not your pipe dreams for what you might accomplish. It's based on what we are accomplishing. And each and every year we are going to be held to a standard of what are we accomplishing this year to meet the needs of moderate income housing. And so our general plan has a moderate income housing component, but all of the ifs and when, buts, and dreams that may be in it are not necessarily what is helping us to be compliant with what the state is requiring of us as moderate income housing. I do believe that the trails that are on the general plan have been used to prevent people from making changes to their property. And so while we say you can't take trails, you can't exact them, as our attorney stated tonight, if it's in the general plan, then it changes the picture a little bit as far as what we allow to happen on a piece of property. Is that fair, Brad?
That is, so yeah, that's, exactions happen, and I sent a memo to the whole council on this.
Right.
Exactions, when development occurs, exactions can be made. An exaction is where a developer has to contribute something. So if a road is going into, let's say there's a big vacant piece of property on Green Road, and I'm using a hypothetical. I don't think there is any vacant property on Green Road, but just a hypothetical. And that has 1,000 units that are going to be developed on it into apartments. That Green Road would fail from a traffic standpoint. And so the developer would be responsible for improving, widening, and buying up additional parcels of land, including, and the city can do takings for that to get the wide roads and things. That is one thing that is allowed, but not without fair compensation. But the developer is responsible for paying all those costs that the impact of that development has. When this gentleman says that he has a 2 acre, I believe it's a 2 acre parcel that he wants to subdivide into 1 acre parcels, under the zone, he meets that criteria. Currently, the legislative policy, whether you go back to the current general plan or it's the prior one, my understanding is, and I haven't looked at this recently, but the trail is both of those. So the council, as a legislative body, can remove that trail, but staff cannot vary from that. The reason I said that they can do it is because it's on the general plan, that trail is. So if there's additional development, that's the only opportunity that the zoning authority allows for a city to make change to current land uses, such as acquiring easement. Because the impact of subdividing a 2 acre parcel into 1 is de minimis, the city would have to pay for the value of that trail. Now, before the city could construct a trail, they would have to acquire all the easements along that trail. And if there's one holdout, the city can't move forward with that. But again, the city cannot initiate a constitutional takings for trail easement. So they can't do that. But I wanted to say, I hope you give me just a second. I need to correct just one thing or clarify. So the moderate income housing plan component to the general plan is one requirement that we are currently, if you ask the state, we are currently compliant with, because the state believes that we adopted it properly. Right? Obviously, if they're looking at our agenda tonight, listen to the meeting, they're gonna know, right? So, but the moderate income housing report that we have to do every year is different from the plan. We have to come back and report every year our progress on the items that we put in the plan. So we've never made any progress on the development of the golf course, so we've never put that in there. We are currently, when is our next report due, Jeff?
I think they're like July.
I think there is either July 1st or June 30th. There to be in. Okay, so we have another kind of plan coming up that we will be coming back as staff, reminding the council we have this compliance that we have to report back to the state. We made progress on our menu items in the moderate income housing plan that we need to report progress on. That's what the state's referring to, that I think it was this young lady in the front that talked about, they don't have a requirement of numbers, and that's true, they don't. They just have to show progress on what our plan was and whether we made any progress on it. So that's the kind of compliance pressure that we have as a city, and it's not just Fruit Heights. It's any city that's of a certain population. Fruit Heights exceeds that population, that requirement is there. But that's, so I just want to make my clarification, but it's true, the city council as a legislative body, they declare the policy, and as you know, Mayor Grover doesn't have a vote. It's the council members that have that vote collectively. So if they come back and they say, look, we've modified the general plan, and we've taken out that trail, that the easement is on this couple's property up front. The council, the staff, when they come to put their application in to file that, we no longer have that on the general plan. As trails are treated a little differently than future land uses in future zones. That's not the same level of treatment. Because the council put that on Trails Master Plan, if there's any time and an opportunity for the city to acquire that, that's how cities gain those easements over time. But it's been there, as I said before, that trail's been there for 30 years. It's not going to be constructed until all of those are there. And my hunch is, probably not many people, if anyone in this room, would be here if it stays in the general plan. But if the council decides to remove it, that's a council decision. And if it's no longer in the general plan, staff, when anybody comes to develop or subdivide, that's no longer a requirement. But while it's in the general plan, us as staff don't have the ability to modify that. That's a legislative policy decision. So
if it's in the general plan, then even though if it's in the general plan, the staff is going to say it's in the general plan. Similar to, so anything that we leave in the general plan or that we add to the general plan, then the planning commission also is going to be tasked with looking at the general plan and saying, the legislative body wants this, so therefore we are going to recommend the approval of this because it's in the general plan, so that must be what the legislative body wants. Is that true?
So, not necessarily. I mean, so the planning commission's role is a little bit different. The council would say, hey, it's time to create a new general plan or amendment. And so then the planning commission will take up their portion of that, and this is one of the funding questions. This is atypical to come back to a general plan so recently. It typically is a 5 to 10 year period. Right now, I've got cities that haven't done them in 11 years, and they're like, oh, it's time, right? That doesn't, and things change, and that's why general plans change, and I guess that gentleman left, but no, he's still there. They change, and that's why oftentimes you will see some things that are left over in iterations of general plans, and some things that have completely changed, like the Green Road that has changed since the general plan was adopted based on awaiting and completion and all that stuff. Those are perfectly legitimate things, and you're going to find things in any general plan of any given community that are outdated just based on the age of a system. And my only concern and my advice, and I'm explaining this just so everybody is clear that's here, because obviously this is a concern to everybody. My concern is to not disturb what the state believes to an adopted valid general plan that is compliant, because they've looked at our moderate income housing. That was one of the requirements that we had to do, is the state had to go and review it. And one of the reasons we took so long to do it, and took so long, we were 4 months past the deadline, is because we provided them 3 different versions of the moderate income housing plan that the state rejected. That's why I'm advising ratify the vote so we don't disturb our compliance. But you can tonight say to staff, because you don't have it on the agenda to send it back to planning commission to revise it. You can do that at the next agenda, but you can direct staff tonight to come back next time with a report on, is there anything that we see in those menu items that would allow us to take out the golf course from that list of items? Absolutely, we can come back next time and report back to you. Absolutely, be #1 priority. We can also come back and get back with you and let you know that, I mean, the city has the ability, the council has the ability, those 2 parcels that the council does have, or the city does have on that trail, if the council so decided, they could deed that easement back, abandon that trail from the general plan if they want to. But they don't have to, right? That's a legislative decision, and the legislative body makes that policy choice, right? So I'm not saying don't go back and revise this, don't go back and see if we can do it. I'm saying it's not worth the risk finding out if the state wants to penalize us. It's just easier to ratify it so that it doesn't undo what the state believes is already a valid general plan. And then we can immediately, staff can be working on this. You can open up the general plan next week or 2 weeks from now, or the next council meeting, and say, we want you to open up the general plan and start working on it. What that does is it signals to any developer that the current general plan is being amended, and it kind of works similar to the pending ordinance rule. The pending ordinance rule states that if a council provides notice, they're going to modify, let's say it's the R16 zoning. We're going to modify the R16 zoning. What that does is it freezes the ability of anybody to make an application on the R16 zoning while we work for 6 months to resolve any changes. So if the council, the very next meeting, because we didn't put that on the agenda, and I apologize, I knew we had some emails and a handful of people that contacted council members. I did not realize there were 80 people that were what's the right term? Very concerned about all this. So had that been the case, I would have advised, had I known that this was this big of an issue to the community, I would advise, let's put the amend the general plan. That will allow time and not accepting any applications on anything related to, let's say it's development of the golf course, but that's not going to happen, but let's just hypothetically, you wouldn't be able to accept anything for 6 months. So that gives you, number one, it resolves the concerns of all the community. You've got the time to go back with that. You can direct staff to come back with a report right now. You can direct staff to do anything in the agenda without it being on the agenda, but you can't say we're going to ask the planning commission to start the amendment process, the review process of the general plan. And you can tailor it so it's just those items that we need to address, right? And then we're not looking at the costs. I just want to remind the council, and I said this last time, that there is a grant that the council used, that the city received from Wasatch Front Regional Council in order to do the general plan. So they received grant funds from outside the city to do that. My recollection is there's somewhere around the $30,000 to $40,000 range with all 80. Okay, it was 80. Thanks, Jeff. So they're not cheap, and so that's why. But you're not going to get another grant 2 years into a general plan from Wasatch Front Regional Council. So that was one of the concerns that we talked about internally. Full transparency. That's another reason why we didn't recommend starting back over, or I didn't recommend starting back over the general plan. It's very expensive, very costly. You hire outside experts to do that work, and it is a vision, it is a dream of what could be. It's not a dream of what will be, unless the council takes affirmative acts in order to implement it. So, anyway, I hope that gives you, at least, I hope that gives residents an opportunity to say, okay, we're fixing a procedural issue. It doesn't make a lot of sense to undo what the state already believes is a valid plan. So let's not disturb that so we don't risk. And again, I'm not saying what I know the risk is. I'm saying I don't want to know. So let's just move past the risk, eliminate that possibility, and then go to town on coming back next time. We'll come back and tell you what we found out, having a fresh look at it. And maybe in hindsight, we probably should have done that this meeting. Had I known that there were 80, 90, 100 people that were interested in this, I probably would have advised that. But again, I'm sensitive to costs. Rebecca's is sensitive to costs. On legal fees, we try to keep them to a minimum. That's how I've always worked with Fruit Heights. I've been here since 2013. So I love this community. I'm here to help. I'm not here to pick sides or choose. I'm here to advise. And this, in my opinion, is the safest way, least risk way, but still accomplishes having another look at the general plan amendments or issues that are concerning. I do credit Councilmember Ross with identifying that that vote didn't occur. I don't come to every meeting, right? Had I been at that meeting, I would have said, hang on a minute, we only have 2 votes. That's a very common thing when you have missing council members, that it's very easy to go, well, we have a quorum, it's just a majority of the quorum. And Mayor Pullman, he didn't vote, he only votes if there's a tie. So that's what happened. It wasn't intentional, it was a procedural error. And
it slipped by us all.
Yeah, so I'm not, but, so that's what happened. It's not, so we're just, the recommendation here wasn't to shove anything and move it fast or move it forward. It was simply to resolve any question whether we have a valid plan or not, so that we don't risk the state coming back and giving us that daily penalty that Mayor Grover calculated and put on her memo. That's what happened. That's all that we were trying to accomplish as a staff and as a council. There's no conspiracy anywhere. Zero. There just isn't. There never has been. Fruit Heights is not ever been a community that there's been any sort of conspiracy. And one other thing, I know I'm verbose, I apologize. There's some wish lists there was improvements in that general plan for Nichols Park. And there was cost estimates of those, and there's other cost estimates in there. And again, those were created back in 2022, maybe even early 22, and there's been quite a bit of inflation since then, so they're not accurate today. But the wish list does not mean the council is going to come back and raise taxes by 4,000% to accomplish those. I mean, they're just not. Nobody's ever done that, and they're not threatening to or anything like that. But anyway, that's more information than you asked for, I apologize. But what I hope people go away from here is that staff is listening, council is listening, Mayor Grover is listening. They're just trying to do the right thing. They're in a really hard position with how this has been, I guess, created such a well, more than a concern, but just a pressure that there has to be, do it this way or else, right? There can be a methodical approach to this, and the recommendation that I recommend just eliminates the risk of the state coming back and saying, you guys have been in compliance for 2 years. Here's your daily fine of, $150,000.
Yeah, I did not put that in my memo, but there is language. I have spent so many hours on this topic. I hope no one thinks that I am not caring, I'm not listening. I am caring, I am listening, and I've spent hours of research on this in very many different forms that has taken. Writing this memo and taking care that everything is totally accurate, totally legally accurate and true. It's not some sort of dash this off. So that there are references, there's backup to everything that I say, that you can trust this information that is coming out. I did not include those numbers, but I did read where some of the laws that were passed, I think that was passed back in 2024, daily fines, possible daily fines for every day you've been out of compliance. If I do the calculation, add that up, that's like over $250,000, approaching $300,000 for us. That's a heck of a lot of money for our city. I see that and I think, I don't know if that can happen. It's an unknown risk, but here it is in a statute. I don't want to trigger that. I don't want to expose our city to risk. I want to take the path of least, and in this case, no risk. Ratify that vote and take care of the process part. Move on with the content part. When every cloud, every chance of any kind of risk with the city, any financial, any zoning threat, zoning authority threat, any of those things, I don't want us exposed to those risks at all. That is my primary concern as mayor right now. You're right, I don't get a vote, but I have proposed that and look, the reality is too, I've spelled out the reality from state leaders about the true and honest threat of usurping our zoning authority. I mean, that's not a fabricated thing. That's a real thing. Read the news. They've been trying to do that, and they're still trying to do that. Okay, and I'm not. I don't want to play into that argument. I don't want to give any strength to that argument. I also don't. And again, it doesn't have anything to do with whether I agree with them or not. That's not the point. The point is dealing with the reality that I have to deal with. I have proposed, and the other obvious reality is that we're in the middle of a legislative session and don't know what new legislation might be about to occur that would affect this. I'm intrigued and appreciative of your suggestions now, Brett, where you said, similar to a pending ordinance rule. In this case, we could invoke a 6-month freeze, whatever title you might give that, a 6-month freeze on applications for any type of development action. 6 months would move us past this legislative session. It would give time to compile a list of these concerns together and time to schedule a meeting with staff, with planning commission, and council, and to bring all of that to the table. And meantime, not to have any active applications happening that would. I agree. Maybe that gives some peace of mind. That would help. I like that idea. I would favor that. Give us a 6-month window in which to get past this legislative session and see what happens, and also get to a place where we can meet together, the planning commission, and bring all of these ideas. I do feel, and I have cataloged for everyone, a long list of meetings that this plan has gone through. And I invite you to be part of future meetings. There's a long list of public meetings in developing this plan. I invite everyone to be part of this in the future. We can't go back and say, we can't go back in time. We can go forward in time. We can go forward in time. You're here now. You've made your voices clear. There'll be more opportunities for that. A ratifying vote is a process thing. It's not anything more than that.
Can I ask one clarifying question?
Clarifying.
So Brad, you mentioned advising staff to check if there are any drop-down page plans, and that's something that housing can do.
Yeah, any options, yeah, we can come back and we can review that, come back and report to you next meeting.
But again, are they under review in this session?
They could be, we can check that,
That's what my point is. Maybe time is better spent on that after the conclusion of the session, so we don't.
My suggestion was just so the residents understood, we're taking this seriously, and it's not falling on deaf ears.
So Brad, I have I believe that the multiple issues, they're diverse. And so my concern is I don't want to hone in on only one thing. I want to be able to let residents talk to me, talk to other council members, and get a few things that are reasonable that we could potentially take action on, depending on the taste of the council. How can we take on a few different things at once rather than only, this is not a single issue. There are a lot of
There were three, actually 4 that I heard tonight that were really at the top. My understanding of those is the golf course, and if we could somehow not have that included in the moderate income housing plan portion of the general plan. Number 2, and I want to make a recognition, there's no such thing as moderate income housing in Fruit Heights. It doesn't exist unless you're talking trailer park. That's it. There's nothing else that would even approach that. Fruit Heights is one of the highest property values in the state.
Unless we divide the lot into 18 parcels.
Well, we also have the apartments. That we have our basement apartments.
Yeah. Well, those are things that we have reported back to the state land progress.
But it's already part of it.
Yeah.
That's already an item.
And then the other one is the trails. That's easy. You include it or you don't. That's up to the council decision. There's no need to look at that or do any research on that. As far as that's a legislative policy decision, either keep it in there. Yeah, and then what is going to happen to this if the city hall moved, right? I guess that was the other one that came up. I think that's kind of the most.
I've heard a few others that weren't brought up tonight.
Yeah, we're not, if whatever the council wants us to look at and report back on, we're here, let's do it.
And then, what was the recommendation on the language change for the?
I just actually modified that with Darren here, when you read it. So, on section 1, it says, the city council of Fruit Heights hereby ratifies the vote taken on the general plan previously on April 11th, 2023.
Not the general plan, but the vote.
Right, yep.
So we're making it clear that we're not looking at content, we're looking at procedure.
A procedure issue, yes. Yep.
Thank you.
And I can help staff work with the next agenda so that we make sure we get this, get the direction right, so we're doing it consistent with amending the general plan or, giving direction to the planning commission, and that it puts everyone on notice that we're not handling applications for development on these areas.
Okay. The copy of the resolution that I have, so that would be just adding over the vote for the general plan. So if we were to adopt this, it would be with that language in there, just to be clear.
So there's a couple ways you can do it, but what I have is, so 1, the city council of Fruit Heights City hereby ratifies the vote on the general plan previously taken on April 11th, 2023.
Okay. The vote on that's what you want in there? Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Further discussion?
You can use the one that we had back here in the past, so to do the signing on that, so record the vote.
Great.
If the council approves it.
Great. So to summarize, I think that everyone up here is wanting to take in public opinions, like wanting to take input. I like the suggestion of a 6-month freeze. I personally think it's probably wise to let the session play out and see what occurs there as far as new regulations that may be handed down, we'll need to abide by. So we don't do something that right away needs to be redone again on account of that. Feels like a better use of time and people's time and resources to wait till after that session. 6 months gives us that window. Council, would you be open to meeting with planning commission and staff jointly within the 6 months and after the session to discuss what we're hearing and to discuss amendments that might be appropriate, necessary, desired, needed? The general plan, keeping in mind, is stated in the law that creates a general plan. General plan is a vision. It is a document that creates a vision, general idea, as said, for a city, and it's a long-term thing. I feel like one idea that's out there is this idea of it being mandatory in every detail, and I think that's not quite accurate, but we can meet together. More heads make better decisions, of course, with more input, and be able to form what is that vision now for the next, 50 or 100 years, whatever, in this city. There is, there's always change. We can't say no change ever. It's just about shaping the change in desirable ways, in ways that will benefit our kids, our grandkids, and generations to come. Thinking about all of those things that are currently, the growing pains that Utah is experiencing are real, and this is part of that larger context. And that's community discussions to have together. And I would encourage that. I just think that we need to do it in a way that makes sense, on a timeline that makes sense, and gives time to listen and time for legislators to do what they're doing in the session, and us to meet together, staff to review all of these things and put together rather than any charged and highly rushed kind of a way. This ratified vote does not represent, in my mind, in the least, any type of shoving anything under the rug or doing away with, any chance for input. I hope I've been clear. I've tried all that I can to be clear about that. It is not what that would represent to me. And I don't know how many more ways I can say that. But it is a process thing. And in my mind, is the wise thing to do to mitigate risk to our city that potentially could be there. And I don't want that to be there. I don't want us to be subject to that, whatever unknown risk it might be. I'd rather choose the no risk route for us. Any more discussion from this?
So the session ends on March 6th. There's basically, by the time we put it on an agenda and say we're going to do it, the session will be over. So even if it's on our next council meeting, we say, on our next council meeting, we say we're going to assign this to the.
We can say that. We can say that now to staff. What Brad is suggesting we say, we can even say that tonight. Like staff can review this and look at what's happening. Also, the end of the session would be a good point to do that. But I'm saying the 6 months covers that plus then some. Because we're, a couple weeks into the session now.
Right. So
are you saying?
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. By the time we make the official action that we're going to take that 6 months and do it, we're almost already at the end of the session. So really, worrying about the end of the session is not a big deal.
Does that require an official action next time? Or is that a direction we can make tonight? Is that a motion that has to be on the agenda?
You could direct staff, but part of that moratorium stuff or initiation of the general plan review or renew, you have to have public hearing and a notice requirement. So we need 10 days to do that.
Okay, sorry. I think so. You call it a pending ordinance rule.
Yeah, in order to do that process, we have to notice it, and it requires an affirmative vote from the council, and we have to. It's a public hearing, so we have to have a 10-day notice.
Okay, great. We can do that. That can be put on for next time. And that would, so 2 more weeks, and that would be another 3 months, or sorry, 3 weeks out from there at the end of the session and things. So 6 months would be ample time to assess what's been handled from the state and to, accumulate all of this feedback together. That is my proposal, yes. Any more discussion there? Okay, we will move on to, we'll move on to section
8.1.
8, action items 8.1, approve or deny resolution 2026-03, ratify a vote for the general plan. This is a resolution, as noted, but there's a slight wording change there for clarity. I hope everyone is understanding at this point, and we will need a roll call vote. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I make a motion that we approve the resolution 2026-03 to ratify to correct the vote by the City Council on April 11, 2023. And do I need to say the general plan or just leave it at that?
I would just suggest you say as amended.
As amended that we've talked about.
Thank you. I have a motion from Mark. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from David. Do I have further discussion on this motion?
Yes. I voted against the original motion, so if we are ratifying the original motion, then I would still vote my thing to say that I was voting the same. Is that correct?
Like you're bound to vote the same way? Is that what you're asking?
I don't think you're bound to vote the same way. So this is, the action of the council was deemed as effective, right? And it wasn't caught, so we're making sure that it was, rather than a 2-1 vote, that if it doesn't get 3 votes tonight, we're in the same vote. So I don't think you're bound to do it. You're ratifying that the vote was held and you're ratifying the action that was taken. So vote, action, either way.
Okay, so not bound. Any other question or discussion from anyone? Okay, maybe we take a roll call vote for this motion.
Councilmember Gary Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Eileen Moss,
No.
Councilmember Mark Cottrell,
Yes.
Councilmember David Hill,
Yes.
Councilmember Blake Whitfield.
Yes.
The vote is 4-1 and passes, that motion passes. Item 8.2, approve or deny resolution 2026-02, adopt updated culinary water rates.
Motion to approve resolution 2026-02, adopt the updated culinary water rates.
Second that.
Motion from Gary, second from Irene. Do we have any further discussion on this topic? Or this item? Okay. This is a resolution, will require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Eileen Moss,
Yes.
Councilmember David Hill,
Yes.
Councilmember Blake Winslow,
Yes.
Councilmember Gary Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Cottrell.
Yes.
The vote is unanimous and that resolution passes. Item 8.3, approve ordinance 2026-01, title 10-11-16, maximum coverage of rear yard. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
Just one quick question, Darren. Do you know why they picked 50%? Is that some code, or why 50%?
I just believe that they went to the 50% because of the size of the lots are getting so much smaller. In order to put something in the backyard or be able to do that, have the yards defined, that there was space to still do things in your backyard in a smaller lot. And I believe that's also why they wanted to have the, making sure if you are getting there, you're controlling your drainage. It's not running onto the neighbor.
So the other thing is your rear yard is defined by your setbacks, right? So what I'm trying to say with that is if someone came along and wanted to make an addition to their house and they stayed within their building pad, so they were not within the setback, it doesn't preclude them from doing that because they're within their building pad. That is not the.
Well, that's not accurate. No, it's defined as the rear of the main structure.
But if you add to your main structure.
Well, then where would that setback begin?
Okay, that's what I'm trying to say.
As long as if they're in that building portion,
yes,
wherever the main structure is, that's where the backyard.
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. As long as if somebody wants to do an addition to their home and it stays within that original building pad, then that's okay.
I'm confused. If you add it on the back of your back, that.
If it's part of the name, that becomes the new.
Yeah.
Like there's property where you've got someone's side, it's saying that's not backyard, it's from the back of your house to the fence. Thank you. No, it's late. Okay, is that clear? Questions? Any more questions on rear yard coverage? So I have a motion to approve that ordinance.
I make a motion that we approve the ordinance 2026-01, title 10-11-16, maximum coverage of rear yard.
Motion from Mark to approve. Do I have a second? Second from Blake. All in favor of this ordinance, say yes?
Yes.
Oh, it's a roll call, sorry. We got 2 on 3. That's a roll call for ordinance. So roll call, Haley.
Councilmember David Bell.
Yes.
Councilmember Gary Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Irene Moss.
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Cottrell.
Yes.
Councilmember Blake Winslow.
Yes.
Vote is unanimous, that ordinance passes. 8.4, approve January 2026 city council minutes. Hopefully all council members have been able to review the minutes and submit any corrections or changes that were necessary. Does anyone have to do so? Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve minutes from January 20th, 2026, city council minutes.
Thank you. Motion from Gary, a second?
Second.
Second from Mark. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Voted is unanimous, so those minutes are adopted. Item 8, there are no tabled items, there are no past discussion items, calendar items. February 16th, President's Day, City Hall will be closed. Next council meeting is February 17th, Planning Commission on the 24th of this month. And then in March, the 3rd and 17th for City Council.
May I ask a question in regards to March 17th? March 17th is Caucus Day, and so we could, it's difficult because I think we want to encourage people to be at our council meetings as well as participate in the political process.
That's a good point.
So we could meet at 6 o'clock, or we could, there are 5 Tuesdays in March, and except for the 5th Tuesday would be during spring break for the kids, so that would be planning commission, so I don't know what's the best plan there, but I do feel like it's a problem to.
I agree.
Isn't Monday also like
Should be able to attend
holiday?
caucus without conflict from us. What's that, Gary?
Isn't Monday, isn't the 16th also a holiday?
Of March?
No, of February. February.
March.
Oh.
Or the day she's referring to is March 17th.
Right.
St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you.
Also St. Patrick's Day.
The staff will, put a recommendation for the next council.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that, look at the calendar, have recommendation of it. For the conclusion of our meeting at 10:21 p.m., I would accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Gary, second from Blake, all in favor say yes.
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 Motion to adjourn.